Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday today? I can't remember the days of the week. I have kids.
Dude, I can't keep track anymore.
I know. I'm just like, look at my schedule and I'm like, hey, who do I have live with tonight? So, I forgot to hit mute on my thing. Woo! Good job, me.
Hearing yourself in loop. I love when that happens.
Oh my God. Listen, I was set up ready to go an hour ago because I'm dumb. And I'm like, woohoo, I'm like way ahead of the game. I'm ready to go. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, where's Jason? Jason is not in this. And I'm like, oh crap. No, 9 p.m. EST, not AST. Good job, Kathleen.
No, I was cooking dinner at that point.
we had rushed the kids to bed because we have the three of them and we're like, bath time, go. So we have a standalone shower plus a giant bathtub. So we've got the two littles in the bathtub and we've got the oldest in the shower, like, go, 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 go.
My wife's actually bathing our daughter as we speak. So I get out of bath time duty by doing live streams.
Yeah. How crazy is it though to have a baby during COVID? Like,
well,
man.
I'm probably the worst person to ask about the whole COVID thing because I'm long since over the government oppression and the shutdowns and the masks and all that crap. And I've got my reasons why, and we'll leave it at that. But my wife works in healthcare. She works in the ICU at the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not only did we have a baby during COVID season, we had a baby with a healthcare worker during COVID season. So,
oh my God.
When they've got 54 COVID beds or something right now. So it's been a wild couple of months, that's for sure.
Yeah, we had our daughter February 27th, like a week before everything shut down.
Yeah.
So like, you're getting home and you're getting like, this is my third baby. And the rule is don't look at me for the first week. You just like, leave me alone. Like, let me adjust. So we went that week and then boom, lockdown.
Yeah.
And like, this is the last grandbaby for John's parents. So it was like, it sucks.
But, well, I mean, luckily, I'm originally from Northern California and I still got a lot of family there. And so does my wife. Mm-hmm. And so I keep an eye on what's going on there. And to be fair, here in Montana, we've just kind of, I don't want to say we're not participating, but we are not participating in all the crap. I mean, the governor who just got voted out, thank God, he comes up and he's tossing, mask mandate this, shut down here, 25% in bars, this, that, and the other. And, and it kind of comes and goes. And, people wear their masks, they want to, that's fine. I go into all the stores without it because I don't agree with the idea. And nobody seems to be the wiser. There's very few places that I get asked to put one on, and more often than not, it's like in the hospital, obviously. We were doing all of our appointments and we had the baby and everything else. I didn't even screw with it there. It's not the time for the discussion. Yeah. If somebody in Lowe's asks me about it, I've got one in my pocket, and then when they walk away, I don't worry about it, kind of thing. And most of the state seems to be that way, which has been pretty nice.
We're pretty good, like where I live, because I'm Canada. So the province I live in, we have everything divided into zones. So it's like one zone's really bad and there's a bad outbreak. That's when that zone kind of gets like, shut down a little bit. Let's ease the stuff. And then everybody else can go normal. And then when they're back to normal, then, opens back up. So we've been able to keep our numbers super low doing it that way so that we can lead somewhat of a normal life right now, which has been fantastic.
HB, my buddy, him and I have done some dealings together now. He's in New York.
Oh, nice.
He said he wishes Governor Cuomo would have gotten thrown out. That's not going to happen as long as New York City still exists. But as much as New York City has become a ghost town, just like California has got this exodus going on, you never know. We could be a few years out from a red governor in New York. That would be pretty impressive, So I completely understand, because between Cuomo and Newsom and the governor in Texas and some of these other ones, it's just gotten insane. We're next door neighbors with South Dakota, obviously, and I just grin when I watch that lady from South Dakota, the governor, and she just basically tells the rest of the world to go to hell. And her cases are no. The weird thing is, she has not followed the guidelines of the White House and the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, the per capita rate is exactly the same across the board, regardless of what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I love watching what she's doing, because she's pretty much saying, look, all of the stats are saying what you're doing and ruining your economies and your cities, and that it's not making it any better, because my numbers are not any worse. That's the difference, And so I don't know. I'm so over the whole thing. I mean, we're all sitting here in March, like, okay, we'll buckle down for 6 weeks. We'll get through this. We'll be done. And here we are in freaking December, and we're still not there. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's wearing on all of us for sure.
Yeah. Luckily, like I said, we're doing really well in our area.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, we've got everything divided into really small zones. So when there's an outbreak in one zone, they kind of make the rules stricter there, shut it down a little bit, give it 2 weeks. Good to go.
Well, the weird, the weird one for me is that and I guess I understand, but that hard lockdown at the border I thought was pretty interesting. You probably know better than I do. It's like 70 or 80% of the Canadian population lives within 100 miles of the border, something like that.
I live 5 minutes from the
US border. So it's weird to me that, like, they draw a line in the sand, and even though we all interact with each other on probably a daily basis, it's like now we're not allowed to.
The reason, like, they did it in my town, because it was just up to my town, is because there was a bad outbreak in that town. So they kind of shut the borders out because we didn't have any cases in my town. And then on the other side of town, we have the Quebec border.
Okay.
Which had an outbreak there too. So they were just like, they're like, nope.
So are they treating the provinces like different states like we are as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you guys not? Are you not allowed inter-province transit, or?
I think it's all depending on the province. So like our province is doing like one of the best in North America. So what they had done was, once our cases got really low, we had made a bubble with a couple of the other provinces that were doing really well.
Okay.
And then we were allowed. Yeah. So we were allowed to go like freely. John's mother's currently stationed out west. She's in the military, so she has to get permission and prove that she has a residence here to come home at Christmas.
Oh wow!
Which she does. Like, she has a house, not a big deal, and then she has to self-isolate for 14 days, and then after that, go amongst the people. No, just to be safe.
That's even more restricted than we are. I mean, they're, with the exception of originally Hawaii, Hawaii, because it's an island nation, they can control it, really tight. They can say, screw you, because obviously everybody that comes to Hawaii is coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So they can just say, no, go to hell, you're not allowed here, or whatever.
Yeah.
Then they open up, then they flare up. Of course, we all expect that to happen. But we don't have interstate lockdowns in that regard. I mean, there's not National Guard sitting on the border between us and Wyoming says, no, you're not allowed to come over here, kind of thing. We did here in Montana, we did have a governor issued mandatory mandate or a mandatory quarantine period if you were outside of what we call the triplex, the Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, that kind of area. Yeah. But I mean, they can't stop you. It's not like you're saying where you got to have like literally proof of, reason. My wife and I are going to California in a week and a half. Like, what are they gonna do? Stop me? Like,
it's funny how everybody differs. I know, like, our province, like, during the initial lockdown, we shut down hard. And we were so strict from the beginning, but we were the first province/state in North America to reopen.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we've had 7 COVID deaths in total, just because we break everything up into zones. And like I said, when there's an outbreak in one area, we just shut down that small area, stricter rules.
Well,
2 weeks later, open back up.
That's part of the frustrating thing especially with the American media in general, is the way that the numbers are categorized, the way that they're grouped, the way they're published, the way the news article comes out and whatnot.
Yeah.
The same could be said if I say, okay, here in Yellowstone County in Montana, we have an outbreak. So we lock down Yellowstone County, but Bitterroot County and that they're still available. So here in Yellowstone County, we've only had, 4 deaths or whatever, but it's just, they can manipulate that number any way they want to get the answer that they want to be the outcome. When at the end of the day, if you literally just boil it all out even, it's more or less pretty even across the board, regardless of what people are doing. And that's the part that frustrates me. It's because nobody's reporting that part of it. There's nobody of prominence on the main stage saying, no, what you're doing, obviously quit doing this open, close crap, because we have the statistics to show it's not doing us any good. And we know exactly what's going to happen when we open again. Duh, because people are going out because they're tired of being in their houses. There's obviously no common sense. And that's the part for me. It's not a political issue, in my opinion. And I've been saying for months that COVID is not political. It has become a political weapon.
Political tool. Yeah.
That's the difference, and I don't care what side you're on. There's just zero logic and common sense to any of it. And that's the part that frustrates me.
Yeah. So. I just like to be able to take my kids out places and not have to stress about it anymore.
Yeah. Like that's Mary Python, the Holy Ball. She gets it. She understands exactly what I'm saying. I like how smart COVID is. Like, you're good if there are only 5 people at a restaurant together, but more. It's like I listen to this talk radio show in Sacramento in California every morning. And they're always like, you got to make sure you leave the bar by 10 p.m. because at 10:01, bam, COVID's going to get you. Like, I mean, come on, or it's 3 households, including your own, at Thanksgiving. You bring in a 4th, you're going to die. Like, come on. There's no logic to any.
No, as long as people, don't have symptoms, and it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, COVID doesn't affect you when you're sitting down. Actually, it seems like the main. I'll tell you, nobody needs a vaccine. Everybody just has to have food, because as long as food's around, COVID doesn't exist. Obviously, the grocery stores are open. You can go to a restaurant and take your mask off as long as you sit down and eat. Like, you can. I don't know. Whatever. It's.
Oh God, it's one of those things. It's a weird world. I know COVID was not good on my bank account because of all the snakes I bought.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's hard for me to complain because, like I was talking, if some of the people in here were in my live on Saturday with MJ, it's hard. It's hard for us to complain aside from the crap going on, because my wife and I still have jobs. I still have the roof over my head. I haven't missed any bills. It's not a big deal, and so it's hard to bitch about that. But the people that are actually hurting due to job loss and quarantine and crap like that, every bit of that is government issued. That's at least here in the States. That's the issue. The whole crash of the economy, the nearly 40% unemployment rate in the middle of summer, all of that stuff was cultivated by our government, and nobody is talking about it.
See, what sucks for us, like John was graduating from college in June, and going into it, he had a bunch of job offers. Before he even started college, he took truck and transport tech, which is like mechanics for the big semis.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a bunch of jobs. Well, because of COVID and restrictions and that, he actually, they can only keep so many people on the floor, even though he's an essential service, right? So he couldn't find a job. Luckily, our government was fantastic, and they created a special fund for recent graduates who couldn't find jobs due to COVID. And
just because their timing was bad.
Yeah, so it was just bad timing. But I mean, the government was fantastic. It kept the roof over our heads, for that time. We bought some snakes. Yeah.
And without going way down the rabbit hole, that kind of stuff I have no issue with. That's what social services are for. But the problem here,
this is the federal government.
Exactly. And that's totally fine. The problem is here, way back in April or whatever, the Congress passed this law, and they basically started paying all these people to just stay at home and not go find jobs. There were help wanted signs everywhere. There were more jobs available than people to fill them. But because we added an additional $600 a week for people to sit on their ass and play Netflix, nobody went and got a job. And they wonder why businesses are closing. The last statistic I heard is something like 60% of small business restaurants in particular that closed because of COVID will never come back. That's insane.
John had to prove he was trying to find a job and stuff like that.
And I think that's the way it should be. If you go whatever it is, 30 days and you can't produce any effort of trying to find a job, they just take your welfare away because you're not playing the game.
Well, they started it right from, because he had funding to go to college. So they started it right from when his funding ended to help cover stuff until he could find a job. And I mean, he found a job. He found a job, but we had to move from like one end of the province up to the other. Into a community that luckily I'm bilingual, but the rest of my family's Anglophone. So we live in a French community.
Yeah, see, HB Reptiles, there is exactly the problem. And him and I have talked about things before, and I've got plenty of friends like this. But that is, I don't care your political affiliation, that is the problem. My production workers on the line were making less than half of the people getting unemployment. There's the issue.
It was really funny because during this New Brunswick, the province I live in, bringing a lot of foreign workers for like farm aids and things like that, labor. And they weren't allowed to bring those in during the initial lockdown. So John was applying for these jobs, right? I'll go work for $12 an hour pulling potatoes or, planting stuff. Like, I don't care. And nobody called him. But yet they were complaining that nobody was they had to bring the foreign workers in.
Yeah. And I think we've developed, especially here in the States, we've developed a culture of entitlement to the level where, okay, outside of your control, the shit hits the fan, and your job at make up a job. Your job at Intel is no longer available. But somehow, because you've got 3 bachelor's degrees and you've been working at Intel for 6 years, you're above going and working at the restaurant that's still allowed to be open. Yeah. And that's because, and I have a hard time. I mean, it's easy for me to say because I've never had an issue with having a job. I mean, I'm a federal employee, which, by the way, is not a guarantee of employment. Trust me. I'd rather not a guarantee of paycheck. I have to screw up royally to not have a job, but they can take my paycheck anytime they want. That was proof positive 2 years ago when, I mean, and people don't realize this. When Trump, again, aside from your beliefs, one way or the other, when Trump let the government shut down because of lack of funding and the continuing resolution, all that crap that goes on in Congress with the budget, when he let the government shut down at the end of 2018 for 36 days because Congress would not fund the border wall, that was my paycheck. I work in the Department of Transportation. I have nothing to do with a border wall or Homeland Security or any of that crap. But for whatever reason, because the government as a whole got to shut down because the budget never got passed, I worked 36 days for nothing. My house payment was still due. My car payment was still due, all that stuff. And I didn't see a paycheck for 5 weeks, Yeah. So that kind of, I mean, that's part of being a government employee, unfortunately. But aside from that, again, it's easy for me to say, just keep going to work, keep making a paycheck, don't sit on your butt because I have a job. So there's definitely perspective there, but the whole COVID thing is just, I think people are finally starting to get over it. They're starting to be done with all the crap, and they're finally starting to use their brain and look out and say, okay, this doesn't make any sense because my town has been basically locked down from day one, and this town in Florida has not been, and yet somehow the numbers are all basically the same. Or everybody in my family has worn masks since the beginning, and yet my grandmother just died of COVID. Whatever. And I'm sorry you lost your grandmother or whatever, but I mean, it's going to happen. So I don't know. I'm so done with all of it.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to be done. That's why.
And the people be over soon. And the people here in the States that thought that COVID was going to end because of this presidential election are just dumb. Like they don't They can't see past right here. COVID is not an American thing. This is a global issue, and whoever's in the White House is not going to change that. Like, so who knows? It's gonna be interesting for you.
All I can say, I was very lucky with who we had as prime minister, because he was just like, okay, we've got to help people now. Like, because people are losing jobs. Yeah, Trudeau. Yeah. So if when we initially went into lockdown, a lot of people lost jobs, and he's just like, all right, here's the emergency response benefit, apply for it. If you can't work, we'll cover you.
Yeah.
And it was able to keep a lot of people afloat. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
He couldn't control too much in that aspect, but we were happy with that.
Modern Exotics, I think it's Modern Exotics Colorado here. I'm reading his comment. This is funny to me because, again, I'm from California, and I just heard this story this morning, that a restaurant can't have outdoor seating. This happened to be in San Luis Obispo County, Salinas County, something like that. Southern California area, LA, where all the crap is. Yeah. So this restaurant got told they had to shut down. They couldn't do their outdoor seating, which was what Gavin Newsom had said was the minimum. Like, that's the best you can do is either takeout or outdoor dining. But this county, the mayor, shut that down even further. And yet right across the street, they were filming a TV show for HBO.
Yeah.
It's like, again, there's no consistency. It's not the lack of common sense drives me nuts, but the fact that there's zero consistency across the board, or even from county to county or state to state, is just, yeah. Anyway, that's not why we're here, but
back to snakes.
YouTube has finally got my side of the story, because I've withheld it from my channel. I haven't mentioned it to anybody. Like, I just keep it off. Like, that's
okay.
There's no winning that argument, no matter who you're having it with.
We're monetized. We're not monetized over here. We don't care. And that's the thing. What I like about doing my stuff is I can have different opinions than other people. I'm still learning about everything.
Well, and that's why. And I think you watched the one on Saturday. I had the. I've started this open mic series Saturday nights on my channel, and it's. It's around snakes and breeders and that kind of thing. And I'm going to interview people that have been doing this. I want to start getting to some of the older people that have been in the game a long time, because I want to kind of I mentioned in that one with MJ, like with Sean Bradley or, Brian Barczyk or Bob Clark or whoever, I want to light them up and stop talking and just let them go and start hearing stories. But I called it open mic night or open mic because I don't want it to just be a breeder interview. There's plenty of other people out there that have that market, and I'm gonna let them have it. I want to be able to we went on a 20-minute rant about COVID, and that's totally fine. And
and we have difference of opinions.
Exactly.
But I mean, we're not arguing over it.
Yeah, and even if my channel is monetizing that, I want to be able to just say, I want to put a topic on this, on the table, and we can go back and forth and let the people talk. And if they, MJ. And I respect the dude a lot. I like him a lot. And he had some things he wanted to say about some certain people, and I let him do it because that's the whole point. I like the open forum feel,
Yeah. I mean, I generally have an idea, I call, when I have one series where I bring new breeders on that are either finished their first season or going into their first season. And we just talk about a little bit what they're doing, what it's like coming into the community. But I mean, it's not a strict schedule. I don't have bang, I gotta ask this question. It's more like an open forum. And that's what I like, because I have stuff written down. I don't know where it went.
I don't even prepare prior, although I will kind of pull the curtain back a little bit. This weekend is Desiree and Stephen Cush from Cold Blooded Cafe and Rep Tech and that one I will probably prepare some stuff for, because Desiree and I have only spoke a very few number of times. And as far as I'm concerned for the channel, that's a fairly high profile person to have give me their time. So I don't want that dead air. I don't want to just be asking stupid questions. I want to give them the platform to say whatever they want, tell us about their stuff, and that kind of thing, and make it feel somewhat organic, because this, as far as I'm concerned, is like a once in a lifetime opportunity to, I try not to brag about it, because I just, it's just another person like the rest of us. But when I had the opportunity to have Brian Barczyk here, that was cool. That was cool for me. And I wanted to utilize every minute of that opportunity to talk to him and learn and just absorb everything. And the same thing here with Desiree. I want, she's obviously super busy and they've got a huge operation, and she's giving me an hour or 2 hours of her time. I need to be able to use it effectively. So I'll probably prepare something for that.
And that's kind of why I do like this mentor series that you're on right now, that is labeled as mentor series, because as a new breeder, sometimes going after asking these bigger breeders who are more well-known is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if I'm pretty much being that middleman and doing the embarrassment of asking to get them on so people can ask the questions they want to ask.
Yeah. And the Barczyk thing was a perfect example that the worst they could say is no. And someday you might just catch them on the right day. And I got lucky. I had coordinated with him and Jay and their office gal, Beth, and whatnot. And I got lucky that he was coming basically right through here. And, I had the ability to offer up my house and, parking and, if he wanted to stay so I just got lucky. But that would have never happened if I didn't say, you know what, screw it. I am going to throw this email out here knowing damn good well he gets 1,000 of these a day, never going to see it. But he did. So I would absolutely encourage people to, especially that do these kind of things, to just send somebody a message. It's like, I got Chris here. I'm wearing his shirt, Chris Eaton. I sent him a message. I said, hey, whenever you're ready, let me know. I got time. He's like, all right, perfect. Give me a couple of weeks. Let me get through the first of the year, and then I'll be on it. It's Chris doesn't know me from anybody.
My goal is to my big goal of 2021 is to be on the 15 minutes of lame.
Yeah.
That's my big goal.
Allegedly, we've not scheduled or done it yet, but allegedly, Chris is going to have me on sometime after the first of the year for that. So that'll be kind of fun.
You guys heard it here first.
But as we're already 27 minutes into this, you guys all know that I can talk forever. So it's going to be tough to condense that down into 15 minutes. Luckily, I'm going to have Chris on my show, and then I can just run on as long as I want.
Yeah, I will say though, there was 2 times that I was kind of starstruck by people, and these were 2 of my biggest influences when I first started getting into reptiles. And I'm just sitting there, it was Brian Cusco. He was doing a Zoom call with Clint last week. So I was in the Zoom call, and he's one of the guys that kind of expanded my mind to reptiles.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm not going to ask him. I'm not going to ask him to come on. And Lance Kirkman, who's in the chat, was like, so we have a podcaster here amongst our mix. Would you like to go on? And Clint's like, yes. So I've chatted with him again. He's definitely coming on. We're just trying to he's so busy.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then Saturday, my absolute hero in the industry, and I over exaggerate this, but it's Dave Kaufman.
Yeah.
Obsessed. Love him. Well, he popped into my chat Saturday. That's all Sal with Gomez Python fault. He messaged him. And again, I'm not going to ask him. That's just Dave Kaufman. And somebody in the chat asked me, he's like, I'd love to be a guest. I'm like, putting you up on the screen. I'm just going to screenshot this. So we're trying to work that out too. So
Dave's a neat guy. I've talked to him a number of times. He's I like his stuff a lot. So another guy that's definitely really busy. And Cusco, Cusco has his own little pocket of fame in this, so to speak. But he's become a good friend. He's having me over to the house, and he's just one of those really easy dudes to just talk to. And that's definitely there's no reason to be afraid of approaching him. He's just that kind of person.
Oh God, no. I joined his Discord before his Patreon before I really knew who he was. So Brian Cusco to me. Love him to death, and we pick at each other. But he's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what 2021 brings, because Billy's coming on at some point. Clint, Dave, I got so many. Like, I'm so excited. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I've got ours. I think I have ours booked out every weekend through the end of January, except Christmas, obviously.
Yeah, I'm now booking into February. Like,
yeah, and most of the people I have lined up are not top of mind. You know, if I told you to rattle off the first 10 people you can think of in the hobby, you probably would not hit any of them. Probably. And I like that. There are people that have become friends of mine that have helped us behind the scenes, you know, that kind of thing. And so aside from Desiree and Steven, that's kind of it's a special occasion, obviously. But I've got plenty of people lined up that I think are going to be kind of fun, that are totally out of left field and hopefully bring in a different perspective. Because, and no disrespect to anybody, but they bring the same people. Everybody has Billy and Justin and Ozzy and, and that kind of thing. And that's fine. And I'll probably get to them eventually. But, there's the rest of us like me and you that are sitting here that, with our small little collections and just getting started in that they need their time in the sun too. And so that's kind of where I've started. So.
Yeah, you'll have to look back, and I'll look back at yours a little bit too, and we'll have to see, like, compare notes. Because I've brought like Marvel Balls UK in there. I brought her on last night for her birthday, and it was the first time she's ever been on camera.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and we had fun. We had a grand time. John Feely, this is the hashtag Vote Shane channel. I've told you this time and time again.
I am. Oh, Paul. Apparently, I'm not hiding anything with what's coming up, because I guess if you go to my channel and look at upcoming lives, I have all the thumbnails already pinned in all the studios and that, or all the streams are ready to go.
You're so better than me. I'm not that advanced.
Said I saw Josh Lundberg is going to be on with you. So yeah, Josh has become a All Python shed. He's become a close friend of mine. He's been super helpful from day one. Like, he's been one of our biggest supporters in that. So but again, same thing. Like, Josh and Jackie are not top of mind for most people. You know what I mean? And
I don't even know who they are, and I'm sitting here writing down their names to Google them.
Exactly. I love Josh. He's been super great. So it's gonna be fun, because not only do they do the snake stuff, but they've got like a whole farm of crap, and it's like, it'll be fun to kind of get that unfolded. And as far as the snakes and the Fat Man thing is going, I have deliberately not voted, because I know all of these people that are involved.
I have them all on.
So,
but the inside joke, like, my daughter's 6 and she's obsessed with Shane, who's a dear friend of mine. So she literally made a campaign video that was like, all I want for Christmas is you to vote for Shane, and then ends it with, if you don't vote for or if Shane doesn't win the contest, that means Santa's not real.
Jeez.
And I'm like, I guess I have to vote for Shane.
Shane's good people. I like Shane a lot. It's interesting, because he and I have only spoken a few times, and I had a customer, I guess, message me on Instagram a while back looking at something, whatever he said. He said, "Hey, Shane from Small Town sent me over. He said you come highly recommended from him." I'm like, what does Shane have to gain from that? It's like, we're,
I don't know.
Shane's fantastic, and I love Shane because he's just such a kind of dry, raw kind of personality. Like,
I love him.
I think he and I would get along really well if we just sat down and had a couple beers together.
You know what? I'm writing this down now. Maybe in the new year we'll do a Jason and Shane roundtable.
I gotta have Shane on mine too. I just haven't asked him yet. Like I said, I booked out till the end of January and then stopped for a little while and make sure I can actually keep it up.
Yeah. Well, like, I've been doing like 3 to 4 to 5 a week, and I said starting next week, like, it's Wednesdays and Saturdays. Like,
there you go.
That's it. Wednesdays are one-on-ones. Saturdays are roundtables. You can't do it.
And if
I don't have anything else to do other days of the week, I might switch it. But
of course. And if you haven't had Chris Sexton on, you should. Chris has become a good friend too, and he's hands down easily my best customer.
Yes, I haven't had him on yet, but he's a good friend of mine. He's actually one of the moderators in here right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, Chris has been really good. I talk to Chris almost daily, and like I said, he's bought all kinds of stuff from me. He's been really good to me, so it's definitely.
Technically, Chris was on. I did a live a few weeks back for Zach with Nava Reptile.
Okay.
And he was just having a rough week. He had his first hatchlings. They wouldn't eat, and I'm just like, what can I do to cheer him up? And John Feely popped in, Marshall Law Morse popped in, Chris Sexton popped in, and we all just like had a surprise party for him.
Oh, cool. I like Marshall too. Marshall's actually not far from me up in the Dakotas.
Yeah, Marshall's actually coming on Wednesday the 16th.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So while you're here, because you are really the DIY master, like
Feely called me the same thing, and then we didn't talk about racks at all.
I actually called you the emperor of do-it-yourself.
I saw that. I think it's a bit overstated, and most of my following is going to be very upset here very soon when they see that I've kind of shied away from the DIY stuff. But
no, like John and I, especially where we are in Canada, we're starting out. It's not easy to buy a rack. So we're building. Like if I want to bring in like ARS or Freedom Breeder, I'm paying like double the price to import it, ship it, do these. Sure. Like,
yeah, that kind of stuff. How far is Cornell's World from you guys?
Other side of the country.
Oh, so is it that much? Would it be that drastic to try to get stuff from them too? What about Serpent Stacks? They're in the area, aren't they?
Not my area. No, I'm like, so you know where Maine is?
Okay.
I'm attached to Maine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I literally can like in 5 minutes drive to the Maine border.
Oh, speaking of DIY, then you're not far from Joey Mullins, King of DIY Fish Keeper on YouTube. He's in
Truro, Nova Scotia.
In Dartmouth, or I guess One Fish, Two Fish is in Dartmouth. I don't know where he is, but
yeah, he's in Truro. Yeah, Joey DIY, love him. Watched him for years because we were into the fish hobby for a long time before that, and then we.
I watched Joey all the time. I like his channel a lot.
Yeah, didn't he built a tank for Barcheck, didn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
I think he built the stuffing turtle.
I've got his book around here somewhere.
Yeah, he's a great dude. I was thinking about seeing if he'd come on, but he doesn't really do reptiles, so we don't have to tell him.
So.
But no, I love watching your DIY videos because, like I said, John and I do everything ourselves.
Yeah, and the tough thing is like, and a lot of people that when they saw on Instagram that I was building the snake room in my garage, and then, getting that stuff ready, and like the last 3 days I've been putting in the flooring and redoing my sink top and bench and everything. And people always ask me like, "Are you doing a video about it? Are you doing a video about it?" And the problem for me is, and this is why I will never be a big YouTuber, is because I do the vast majority of the stuff myself, and I'm very like in the zone when I go to build things and that.
Yeah.
My brain, we were talking about Brian Cusco. My brain does not work like his does. Brian Cusco's brain, Dave Kaufman's brain, that kind of thing. Those guys, they think differently about how to approach a day to get the job done and have really good content to go with it. A lot of that stuff you see, especially like Brian's content, he's got multiple angles and like B-roll and this, that, and the other. All that crap has to be planned and set up ahead of time.
Oh yeah, cinematic masterpieces. Like
exactly. And I don't have the equipment to do it. I've got one, I guess I have two cameras, but I don't really feel like I have the equipment, but I also just don't have the time. And a lot of times for me, it's easier to just get in and work and get the job done and completely forget about what to film. So I didn't film a single thing trying to get my snake room built. I haven't filmed a single thing about putting the floors in. That kind of thing. I do have some plans coming up because I'm going to rebuild my incubator. I'm going to try something new. That's one of the fun things about being DIY is that you can kind of make it up on the fly. And I noticed that I get like a 2 to 3 degree difference top to bottom in my incubator, which has worked fine for 2 seasons. But I did notice this past season, because I had far more clutches than I did the year prior, that when I put clutch, whatever it is, clutch 11 in on the bottom shelf. By the time it has made its way to the top and day 56 comes up, or 58 or whatever, it has spent the majority of its time at 1 or 2 degrees lower. So it's more like on day 50 or 52. Whereas the clutches that start at the top of the incubator, they get to 56, they're at 56. So I did notice this year when I would go to cut a clutch or whatever that had been in the bottom, that had been later on in the season that had worked its way back to the top of the incubator, so to speak, that it seemed like I was cutting early. And I thought about it, I'm like, well, duh. It spent 40 of its days at 2 degrees cooler. Of course it's not done yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm going to try. I decided I'm going to completely rebuild it. I'm going to it's gutted anyway, but I'm going to go down and have my buddy James at Big Sky Reptiles. I'm going to spin some stuff up on the CNC. We're going to cut a couple of false walls that interlock with some beauty panels, so it's all hidden in that. A couple of fans, heat tape, airflow, and I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to see if I can even it out, and I'll do a video about that kind of stuff. But the rest of it, I haven't had a chance to. I don't have the time to. I guess it's not that I don't have the time. I have the time.
It's almost like it takes away from your time to build this stuff if you're trying to talk to the camera.
Exactly. The racks were one thing that wasn't too bad because it worked out really well to be able to do, okay, this is what I'm going to try to do a time lapse, cut some stuff. Okay. All right. Next step, we got to route out all the channels. Here's how I do that. This is the kind of setting that. Now I'm going to go rip through them all real quick. That's all fine and well. But not only am I trying to do this, like when I built the room, we had literally just moved in. My wife was about to pop, and I had everything I owned in my garage, and it was 95 degrees in there, and I had to get the room done so that I could get the snakes cooled down back to a normal temperature,
Yeah.
But I don't have time to try to deal with this. I need to get this room built and operational. And now trying to get the floors done and everything else, I'm working like today. I was working around my daughter's sleep schedule. Like I'd get her down for a nap, run outside, do a couple of rows of the flooring, come back inside, deal with her, and so there's no way to do that with a video.
Yeah. Sounds like my day with 3 kids. Like we moved September 30th. And when I say September 30th, it was actually like midnight, October 1st.
Oh, wow.
It was a long day of moving, and we moved across from one side of the province to the other. We had these we can build racks, like plywood racks, not fancy, nothing. Yeah. So we're using this now to revamp everything and build new, prettier racks and things like that. Luckily, I can keep ambient temp in my reptile room because the ceiling's literally like if I'm walking in it, my butt hits the ceiling. So it works in my favor. So it's not pretty right now, but I can't wait to finish it and be able to start podcasting down there.
Well, and that's what I've been doing the last few weeks is I've said on my channel a few times, I've got some big changes, some big upgrades coming. And I'm sure if people think about it, they can figure out what I'm doing. I'm not really being that coy about it, but I've had, because of the way I got the room finished and stuff moved in, started to settle down because I was right in the middle of breeding season, all that. I've had like part of the walls have not been painted, and I don't have door trim, and I still have raw concrete floors. And I was like, you know what? And I didn't like the way that my bench and sink area had been done with the Formica and that. So I was like, screw it. This is going to be a nightmare to do because now I'm trying to do it with all the racks and cages and everything in there. So I had to like move everything to one side and do a section of it, and then move it over here and do another section. Let it dry so I can put the racks back on top of the floor. And I just laid the second to last row, so it's almost done. I'll probably have the room all but finished except for the next big milestone of upgrades. I'll probably have done by the end of the weekend. And it's just finally, it's going to be nice to have it finished the way I want. And when the next stuff comes in and I can get everything set up and I can do this stuff, will all be able to be done in there now because I'll have a dedicated area for it. And I'll just be able to like open that door and say, wow, look at this. Like it is exactly what I had in mind, and it's exactly what I wanted. And it's going to take me, a year to get there, but
see, we're taking our time. Like I said, we're so lucky to be able to run ambient temps in there, no problem. Like we just put, Stairlight tubs on shelves right now, you know, and build brand new racks. We're doing it that like the plastic shelves when you cut down the thing, because I like that a whole lot better. It looks cleaner.
I like that design. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to do it that way and just take our time and make sure it's done right. So, I mean, ambient temps. Plus, we don't want to move the snakes around too much right now because we're going into first season. We've already had snakes locking. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to. I was so excited for my first lock. It was the Mystic Crystal, the clown. Like, I was like, yes.
Well, I can tell you from experience, it's a lot harder to screw that up than it seems, because my snakes spent 33 days in an 7x14 enclosed trailer in my driveway, where the temperatures were going from 65 at night to 95 or higher during the day. They were there for over a month. Then I drove them across town while they were still in there, put them in my garage. They spent another month in there while I built the room around them.
Yeah.
Right. And this was right in the middle of summer, right in the middle of production. I pulled I pulled 2 clutches out of the trailer and 3 clutches out of the room before I got it built, and we put 19 in the incubator, and that's, I did, I think 32 total pairings, but not all with the intent to breed. I probably did 27 or 28 pairings.
Yeah.
And so pull out 19 with all the crap that we did. Like, they're far more resilient than people give them credit for sure.
Oh yeah. We did have, because we did the move, we had a snake that shipped in right before the move and then literally moved, and then had another snake arrive after the move. Unfortunately, that snake arrived with some issues. But anyways, that one snake that shipped right before we moved, it was just so much stress and I couldn't get the thing to eat. We tried assisted feeds and we ended up losing it, and it sucked. It sucked. And then that's another thing people don't talk a lot about. It happens that you lose something.
Yeah, I actually got when I posted up the Black Friday sale video, I had added the 3 animals from my Sumapai clutch that hadn't even shed out from their first shed yet. And I don't normally do that. And one of my customers that has another snake that they've already paid for, they're like, hey, I want that mahogany posset pied female as well. Yeah. The one that came out of the boo bag. And I was like, all right, fine. She's going to be this much. He's like, all right, here it comes. And he sent it over. And then a week later, I opened the tub and she's done. She's gone. Yeah. And I'm like, well, shit, so, and I have no idea why. I mean, it came out of a boo bag. She was only like 45 grams, maybe. Who knows? There's no rhyme or reason to it. But, it's tough because now I've got this guy's money, and I don't have a snake to produce. So I sent a message. I said, hey, man, here's the situation. Here's what's going on. If you want me to send the money back, I will. If you want to use it towards something else I've got, I'll work with you. I'm whatever you want to do. He said, give me a couple minutes. And he went and ran through my inventory. He's like, what would it take to get this one instead? I'm like, here, we'll make it even, we'll make a deal. And so there is a lot of it that people don't talk about, that ugly side of it for sure. It's like,
just because you buy the snake doesn't mean it's going to thrive.
Well, and I typically do not list them until they've at least had their first meal.
Yeah.
I'll probably, I don't know. I've kicked around the idea of waiting to list them online and whatnot for sale until they are actually ready to ship. They've had their 3 or 4 meals or whatever, because then if somebody pays for it, I can out the door, be done with it. Now because I kind of feel bad when, like, John Feely, John is picking up a snake for me out of one of my kind of weirdo clutches. I'm one of my dinker clutches. And, he bought it, or he reserved it right out of the gate, and so now I'm playing this. Okay, well, cool. I need to get a bunch of meals in it. So it's going to be probably a month. And now we're into the holiday season. Oh, and now it's winter. So you'll probably get your animal, in February or something. And I feel bad for doing that, but I've been lucky enough that my customers have been really patient with me, which has been great. And I've only, this is the only one that I've not ever been able to send, which has been nice. I've been really lucky in that regard.
Yeah. I think we just had crap luck with that poor thing. It came in like 2 weeks before we moved. And then said it was just too much on it. Like, it sucks, but it happens. We learned now, like, if we're ever moving again, see if Buddy will hold it until well after the move.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Poor Jerome. his question's been sitting up there and I've been ignoring it. I'm doing a big double door fridge into an incubator. Any advice from anyone is appreciated. I can't help you with that.
It's funny because I have had probably 6 or 8 messages in the last handful of days about this very discussion, or comments on my incubator video from last year or whatever. And, as far as I'm concerned, I try, I answer most of the comments that come in, especially on YouTube. But if the video is a year or more old, no, I'm not going back to readdress issues or questions that people are just now finding the video. There's enough comments in there to get the answer you're probably looking for, in the last handful of people, I just haven't had the time to get to them on Instagram. The biggest thing, it's hard for me to give advice because, like I just told you, I'm rebuilding my incubator because it's not working the way I want it. Yeah. And the biggest thing you're trying to combat is the difference in temperature from the top shelf to the bottom shelf. So everybody says, okay, airflow, we're going to put a fan in the top or 2 fans on the top to blow air down. It'll take the hot air and drive it to the bottom, and then it'll circulate back up, natural, convection cycle like an oven works. And that does work to a point. The issue is the airflow itself, the fans can do 2 things. They can dry out the inside of the incubator a lot, which is not a huge deal, provided, and I learned this year, provided you have your tubs really well sealed. Because the humidity in the incubator is irrelevant if you can maintain the 100% humidity in the tub.
Okay.
And so part of the issue I had, people that have been watching me long enough know that, last year I started with the purple latch Sterilite tubs because it's the same ones that I have in my DIY racks. Yeah. Those, because of that latch, the way that it's mounted in the tub, there's a slight hole in the sides where the latch gets snapped in place. Yep. So it doesn't matter if you use press and seal or saran wrap or whatever. If you have airflow in the incubator, from a fan or whatever, it will draw humidity out through those holes on the latches. So my eggs were drying out. So I threw those away and I bought the 6-quart Iris tubs because that's the most, tried and true method. And and that definitely helped. But it's interesting because if you go watch, for those that are curious about setting up an egg box, go Google or go YouTube the Brian Gundy egg box video. It's like 10 or 12 years old now. Brian Gundy's been in the game forever. And his video is a basic, it's the white lid Sterilite shoebox. Basic tub. And he actually uses the soldering iron to put 2 or 3, he puts 1 single hole in the side of each tub just to get a little bit of airflow. And,
I heard about that. Yeah.
And there's definitely a balance between getting fresh air to it as opposed to letting it dry out because of the movement of the air in the incubator. Now, if you look, I could be wrong because I haven't seen them in person, but if you look at Billy's incubators from Cornell.
Oh yeah, I'm getting one next year.
I don't think they have any fans in them, but his incubators are only 4 foot by 4 foot roughly, right? Yeah. They're not a 6 foot tall, cooler or whatever. So they don't need to get the air as far down. Plus he's got heat tape in every freaking direction on that thing. So
their stuff is so cool.
Yeah. So to get the equilibrium is easy. So in that case, having the hole in your tub for fresh air would probably work because you'll be able to maintain the humidity without the airflow. The air flowing past the hole is what causes the vacuum that draws the humidity out. So the one thing I'm going to try in my new incubator is the false wall theory. That's the same thing that Sea Serpent hot box incubators that they do. Yep. The heat tape is behind a wall, so it's not radiating heat directly into the cavity. Gotcha. And the fans in there that turn real slow and don't move the air very fast bring the hot air in at the bottom and let it radiate up naturally instead of trying to push the hot air down in the middle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do 2 false walls, one on the other side and across the back, heat tape on all 3 sides, and then a fan, what would be an intake fan at the top that draws the air into that back cavity, and an exhaust fan at the bottom that pushes it back into where the tubs are. because I'll get heat from all three sides that way that pulls into the bottom. And you would think, especially if you can run the tub slow or the fan slow enough, it should equalize that way. Yeah. But I also, since I've gone to the Iris 6-quart Iris tubs, I like that tub because there's no holes in it, and the easy hatch trays that I use for the eggs, they fit in enough room for eggs to overhang on all the sides if they've got big eggs without touching the sides. That was a big deal for me. But I'm going to start using press and seal because Saran wrap's garbage and it doesn't actually seal the top at all. And I still had eggs kind of drying out. So I'm going to do full press and seal, Iris 6 quarts, and this new false wall thing and see if I can get everything to balance.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to watch that and see how it works for you.
Marshall he's right. So the funny thing about that for people
that's how I'm building mine this year after what Marshall does.
I was gonna say the other video to go watch is a totally separate idea. Go over to Garrett Hartle's channel at Reach Out Reptiles out of Pittsburgh. He does Super Dwarf retakes. Yeah. And he's done numerous videos on his incubators. All of his incubators are made out of the 55-gallon big igloo coolers with a aquarium heater and water.
Yeah.
And he's
got the pump in it too.
Exactly. And that solves that whole problem because you're no longer you don't have to worry about the airflow drying the eggs out because the heat is coming from hot water. Therefore, it's already humid.
That's actually how we're doing it this year. Because right now for females that are up to size and ready, we have 4.
Okay.
Yeah. And then later in the year, because we do ambient temps, so I might be able to get the other girls that are 1,000 grams right now. Might be able to get them later in these seasons. So, that should do me fine for this year while I save up to get something like Cornell.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just brainstorming here while I'm watching some of the comments. The reason I don't do Garrett's design is A, I don't have the room for it.
Yeah.
My space just doesn't warrant it. And B, there was a time where I had 14 clutches in my incubator all at the same time. That would have to be a massive igloo cooler or multiple. But I just had a thought, if you could pick up a no longer working chest freezer, like a 27 cubic foot chest freezer or something, you could do the
same thing.
I would imagine Garrett's design would scale to as big as you want to make it. You could do a chest freezer that you could put 40 clutches in.
I'd probably go through and silicone all the seams from the inside.
Yeah, seal it. But if you put a foot of water in the bottom or 2 foot of water in the bottom and then go get some of the white metal closet shelving or whatever and put a couple of shelves in there so it all breathes, you could probably put a ton of eggs in there.
And here's the thing too you can do with that. You could also take a piece of wood or something and put it onto the lid of the freezer, and then you've got a work table.
Yep.
All right. Well, Jason and I are going business building our deep freeze incubator tables. You got the clutch on us. Let's trademark this idea right now.
I can't tell you how many people I've had message me asking me to build one of my racks for them for sale, and I tell every single one of them no. I don't have the time. B, I would never sell one of my racks as a product to somebody else. Now I will sell. When I start upgrading, I will sell my racks secondhand, of course. But if somebody came to me to order one, I would never build one of mine and sell it to people because even as good as I am at woodworking, they are never perfect. Melamine is so difficult to do flawlessly. Yeah. And for that matter, I built one for James at Big Sky Reptiles. I built a 10 high FB70 for him. That thing weighs probably 300 pounds. And once if you get it wet or you spill on it, whatever, and the melamine starts to swell and then it twists, and it's just, especially now that we have him here in town with a CNC making PVC racks, it would be stupid of me to try to build one for somebody. So anytime people ask me for that, I just send them to him. No, that's his problem now.
Oh man, I really like this freezer idea. I wrote it down. I'm
that could be game changing to do Garrett's design, but on a much bigger scale.
I almost want to try it, see if it works. It's first season. If I don't get any, I expect not to get anything to hatch anyways. What have I got to lose?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to take it a step above and, make a work table on top of that thing. So that's way the space is utilized. You know what I mean?
For me, because right outside of my snake room door, I've got just a cart because I don't have room in the snake room, obviously, for it. And I was going to put in one of those bench top toolboxes, the big rolling chest that has the wood top like you're talking about. I was going to put that there because I need more toolbox space. But I was like, maybe if I just put a big chest freezer there and make it one of Garrett style incubators, then that would free up all the room of my cooler. And I could put another hatchling rack or something else. I could expand, do a really tall arboreal rack or something in there. I might have to try it too.
I wonder how many aquarium heaters I'm going to need for that thing.
Well, you think about it though. I mean, that's
maybe like one in each corner. Almost.
Yeah, you think about go to the pet store. Go to One Fish, Two Fish, and just be like, hey, I need enough heaters for a 300-gallon aquarium or something. That'd probably be enough.
Well, One Fish, Two Fish is about 13-hour drive.
I just assume. I mean, it's like it's like the East Coast.
It's all nice you generally know the area-ish.
It's all the same place, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's all the same place. Ooh, no. But yeah, no. We'll have to play around with that idea.
Well, and one of the other things, I know there's a couple of people in here talking about the glass door coolers, kind of like mine. This is now my second or third, because I keep needing bigger ones. But one of the issues you do fight that is not an issue when it's being used as a cooler. It is we all know this from putting snakes in tanks. Is glass is a horrendous insulator for heat. And so trying to keep heat balanced with a glass front, especially if your incubator is not in your snake room, it's in someplace cooler. Trying to keep it hot enough and even is just a pain in the ass. So
that's what I thought. Like, why is everybody using wine coolers versus like a regular old fridge that broke?
So they can see them.
Yeah.
So you don't have to open the door to look at the eggs. I totally get it. I mean, I know plenty of people that have used a standard stand-up freezer that they've turned into an incubator, and it works great. But everybody wants to be able to look through the window and see them, and I understand that.
Okay, Rebecca, and I can never say your last name. She wanted to know, so she wrote down some questions. She had some questions about your rodent breeding rack. What's the best materials to use, and what is the worst? What you should avoid?
I honestly don't know. I've only ever built them out of one thing, and that's just the KD white fur, whatever the hell the standard wood is you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever.
Yeah.
Just basic dimensional lumber. It's nothing special. It really doesn't matter, in my opinion. Just make sure it's straight. That's always the hard part with Lowe's and Home Depot is getting straight lumber. But
oh my God, yeah.
I don't think the type of the wood really matters. You do want to avoid cedar at all costs, which is fine because cedar to build that rack out of cedar would be exorbitantly expensive. But even with bedding for the shavings net, you want to avoid cedar unless it is deliberately kiln dried, and it says so on the package because cedar is toxic to both the rats and the snakes, oddly enough. But a lot of people, I guess some people still don't know, I don't breed rats anymore. I quit that completely about 8 months ago. Well, I guess more than that. I guess that's about right. I quit breeding rats completely before I moved, and I moved here.
Yeah.
So
moving with rats is not fun.
Well, it's not only that. I had a dedicated room in my basement at my last house. I had a big room that had my snakes in it, which is, believe it or not, the room in my basement was bigger than my actual snake building that I built in my garage this time. And then in a totally separate room, I had it torn all the way down to the studs. It was totally bare. And that's where I did all the rodent breeding and that. But it's just, with this house it's single level. I don't have a basement, so that was out the window. I don't have room in the back to build a rodent shed. And quite honestly, trying to have a rat shed in Montana is a pain in the ass because you have to deal with 100-degree summers and sub-zero winters. Like
who wants to go across the yard in the middle of winter?
And that's way too much. It can be done. Obviously, we all live in a house here. It could be done, but it would just be a real pain in the ass to try to build. So I didn't bother. And then with my daughter on the way, I was like, I'm not going to have time because my rodent my rodent operation was 6 or 8, I can't remember, of those racks. And it took me a solid 7 or 8 hour Tuesday every single week without fail to turn that room over.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, by Wednesday, it reeked. It was long since overdue, you know? And so with my daughter on the way, there was no way I was going to have the time. And my wife didn't want the rat stuff in the house anymore. And we needed the garage space for cars and toys and other crap. And obviously now snakes. And so I gave up the rats completely. It has been.
Bye, John Feely.
Oh, see you, John. The going to frozen thawed has been it's been a test of patience. That's for damn sure. We're finally getting there. And I'm gonna start converting all to the gray Freedom Breeder tubs, not the clear ones that I've bought, over the time or whatever.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I was trying to save some money. It's like when I built my breeder racks, my 10 high breeders, I built them with the 41 quart Sterilite because at Walmart they're $12 a piece. And Freedom Breeder 70s are $17 a piece. I'm like, well, shit, I'm going to save $7 a piece or $5 a piece over 10 of them. Yeah, I'm going to plus shipping, right?
Yep.
In hindsight, I probably would have been better to have designed my racks and built them around Freedom Breeder tubs from the get-go. Because I do believe that there is something to be said about the feeding response of the snakes in a dark tub. That has been not only did I quit feeding live, basically cold turkey.
Yep.
Then I put all the snakes in a freaking trailer. Then I moved. Then so I started all this frozen thawed crap. Then I'm fighting with the clear tubs and having all the lights on and it bright and all the movement and crap.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. My feeding averages are coming up. All of my hatchlings go into the gray Freedom Breeder 5 tub. And I think this season I've only had to assist feed 2.
Yeah.
One is because she has no eyes. And the other was a twisted umbilicus that she came out way, way thin.
I remember reading about that.
The bell. And yet she became one of my best eaters and took off. She did great. So I only had to, I think I just fed her twice and then she went crazy. So it does. And props again to Brian Cusco. I talked to him quite a bit and watched his video on starting your hatchlings on frozen thawed and his technique, and it does work.
Yeah, that's what we plan on doing. We breed our own rats, but instead of frozen thawed, we just pre-kill.
Okay.
Just to save space.
Yeah.
So because there's nothing worse, honestly, we're starting out and getting everything back going again with rats. When you cull a rat that could have bred for you, right?
Yeah,
So we just pre-kill as we go and toss them in. And I think we have one live eater, and that's just one that came from a mutual friend of ours, Chris Ward. And I just got it a month ago, so we're just slowly getting it switched over.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if I had the opportunity and the resources for a live delivery every week, I would absolutely still be feeding live because I do agree and acknowledge that the feeding response is better. For the most part, the feeding rate is higher, that kind of thing. But the closest mass production that could supply what I need on a regular basis is 2 hours from here minimum each way.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense. And he's kind of he's busy and he's difficult to get a hold of and that. So it's like, I in fact believe I sold my entire operation to him. So
yeah, where we live, in our city, there's nowhere to get feeders at all. And we have to drive 3 hours to get, it's like a local feeder company. They travel around the different provinces and deliver, but they do it once a month. Actually, they're back twice a month.
Okay.
So just for us, we just ordered 100 rats the other day and held a whole bunch back. And then just, flip, 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 away we go. But I think the other day was the first time I've ever fed a live, it was a small. Usually at fuzzies, I don't even bother calling them. We just toss them in.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I ever fed. And I'm just standing there please don't hurt my snake. Please don't hurt my snake, at the ready. But it went fine.
Yeah. I I guess knock on wood, I guess I've just been lucky that I've never had a snake or a rat destroy a snake by leaving it in too long in that. And I've been guilty of accidentally leaving them in overnight and been just fine. But I started, especially as I was producing my own rats, I started to realize that has more to do with the rats than it does with leaving them in overnight. If your rats are well cared for, well fed, they're in great health, they've got plenty of food at their disposal, all that kind of stuff, the odds of them trying to eat your snake are very slim, because they're just as afraid of the snake as as that. And so the issue that you see when you see come up on Facebook of somebody's snake looks like a freaking filleted, cut of beef or whatever because of the rat, that's probably because the rat is malnourished and pissed and hungry and everything else. And and like I said, I've never had that issue because all of my rats were exceptionally well cared for.
Yeah, we do things a little differently at our house. With we don't do racks, but the reason we don't do racks is, those big rat cages, like you see at the pet store and the Critter Nations. We got 5 of those for $50.
Oh wow!
So I'm like, that's cheaper than making my own racks. I'm just gonna buy those. Away we go. So that's how we do it, and it works well for us. And I like being able to just be like, okay, what do I got to feed tonight? Open the cage. Plus, we breed for temperament too, right?
Yeah.
So whatever's nasty temperament gets cold, goes in the freezer.
Yeah, I never kept one that was that was eating its own young and all that crap. I had never had that issue. And you could open any one of my rat tubs. It didn't matter how old the moms were, the dads. It could have been pregnant. They could have had fresh pinkies. It didn't matter. You could reach in there and you pet them all, and they were fantastic.
Oh yeah, I've got one rat that I try to keep lactating at all times. So when I order fuzzies and say somebody doesn't finish, I just throw them in with her and she raises them up for me.
Yep.
And then I got more breeders.
I did that quite a bit. I would have overlaps. I'd have one, because I always ran typically 4 females in a tub, and then I would rotate a male through once a week.
Yeah.
Once a week, something like that. I can't remember.
Something like that.
But I'd have, they would be out of cycle, and out of the 4 moms, I would have one that would lay a litter, and the others weren't ready because they just come off a litter or whatever. And so I would take that litter and put it in the tub above with all the 3 or 4 other moms that had just laid, and let that mom relax. And then the 4 of them would finally get back in sync again. I'd rotate around all the time. They don't know the difference. They don't care.
Dylan, all those dog food feed rats. So I do part of my thing, we use our own feeders or make our own feed and stuff. We do use technically part of dog food, but we go to those fancy upscale dog places and buy the stuff with no dyes. It's high protein, the good stuff. If I'm going to feed it to my dog, we're good. Well, I don't go to Walmart and buy the $10 giant Alpo or
Vivid Scales is correct. That's what I used to feed, was Missouri 6F. That's the lab grade. Which, funny enough, when I started breeding on a large scale, the only place I could get Missouri foods was at a tack and feed store, a small town one we had here in town. There's a handful of Tractor Supply style stores here, but this was a local brand, and I asked them if they had Missouri for pigs and that kind of thing. I said, hey, can you guys get 6F? I need, it says 6F rodent breeder. It says right on there. And he went and looked at his catalog and said, yeah, I guess I can. I said, good. I'll buy 3 bags at a time every other week from now and forever, kind of thing.
Forever.
And once there's a handful of other guys here in town that breed their own rats, including for a long time.
Yeah.
Once they started to realize that Western Supply had Missouri, they had to start ordering 8 or 10 of them a week, because I'd go to get my supply and they'd be sold out. It's like, you guys can't do this. I need 3 of them every other Tuesday without fail. It's like, and then I go in one day in April or whatever, and say, hey, this is the last bag I'm buying. I quit breeding. Like, oh God, no.
The rodent lab we have access to, we have to drive to a store 5 hours away, and it's 16% protein.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not enough for like a pregnant or nursing mom. So we supplement it with that gourmet, freaking high-end quality dog food.
Yeah.
And some fresh. And I mean, they're popping out. Like, we had a 4-day-old pink that was the runt, and it was like the length of 3 of my fingers.
Wow.
So I must be doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to the point where I was producing somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 rats a month. It was kind of normal production.
We're hoping to get back up to that.
A lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. Oh my goodness. So what's any exciting like pairings this year? Like, what are you most hyped about?
Well, this year, like I told people before, this year, unlike this past season was really good to us. We proved a handful of things out. Yeah, we proved a bunch of stuff out. We hit some insane odds. We hit the Suma Pied. He came out really small, and that's, I'm really hoping he does well, because that's going to be a game changer for us, assuming he makes it, obviously. But, we produced a lot of really cool visual stuff this year. This next season is going to be more of a building season for us, because this year was all about doing enough production to get the snake room stuff done, the upgrades done that I wanted. That was my number one. I went in saying, I need X amount of dollars to do what I want. And as long as the snakes pay for it in cash, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So I had to sell the GHI clown female that I made, and I sold Corey Martin one of my scaleless head pieds, and so on and so forth. See you, Shane. And some of the stuff I would have liked to have kept back, but I was like, man, there's a lot of money sitting here. I can't not take this. I can't not sell it, because this was my number one goal. Yeah. This coming season is a little different, because now I'll have the room to keep a lot more stuff, and I'm building for a lot of really cool double recessive projects in a few years. So a lot of the stuff that I'm making this year will be holdbacks of long-term projects. And a lot of it is not going to be visually, mind-blowing. It's not going to be very pretty. It's going to be a lot of normals and pastels and cinnamons and yellow bellies and, that kind of thing. But they're all going to be double head for this, that, and the other. So that's a big one for us. A lot of people have seen on my Instagram stories today talking about Chris. I finally was able to get in because of all this COVID stuff we talked about. I was finally able to get in the proven breeder male dreamsicle from Chris, which will
produces amazing stuff.
Yeah, and that will dramatically change the direction I go. It'll obviously increase my odds a lot, because we were able to prove out my pied female to be het for lav. She was pos-het before. I hit 2 pieds and a lav, but I didn't hit both, but now instead of 1 in 16 or whatever it is, now my odds are 50-50 or whatever. And so, or 1 in 4, whatever it is. So that will help. But it's also going to be a big player in, again, long-term projects. I really want to see what the scaleless dreamsicle looks like. So I'm going to start working that direction at some point. I want to add some other codoms, and I want to go to a 3rd level of recessive with the dreamsicle that nobody, as far as I'm aware of, is doing yet. The Holy Grail came out. It didn't really do much for me. There's not enough going on. So I'm
it's not visually pleasing to me.
Exactly. And I give all respect to Justin. I mean,
it's a powerhouse.
The odds are insane. It wasn't as mind blowing as I was expecting, knowing how clown pieds worked.
Yeah.
And so, and he maybe just hasn't hit the right thing yet. If he starts stuffing in blackhead and leopard and that kind of thing, it might start to just knock our socks off. But
oh my God, yeah.
I do want to see it going the other way. I have a really cool female. I don't think she's going to make it this year. She's just one of my really difficult feeders. But if she proves out to be het pied, and I use this dreamsicle male, that is going to be a game-changing project for us for sure. So that one I'm pretty excited about down the road. I'm going to be doing.
We're hoping to get a mahogany into the dreamsicle.
Yeah, well, obviously with the Suma, I've got that on deck now, so that'll be
that's really cool.
The problem is I got a male Suma and a male dreamsicle. I need the other half of this equation.
Well, it's funny because John, he loves Sumas and he loves panda pies, so he's trying to get Suma Sydney pies, so it's like panda pie adjacent without worrying about the kink.
Yep.
So that's a project. Like, John's my significant other. That's what he's working towards.
Yeah, and I know Justin did the Suma GHI pied. He called it the Abyss, and that's about as black as I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's definitely more room to go for sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that Suma pied to get to size because I got some big plans for him. Obviously, if I put him to, my pied het lav female, I can make all pieds, obviously.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll make all mahogany pieds, all of which will be posset lav. So that would help, that'd be going the right direction.
Yeah.
I'll probably work him towards my pinstripe ultramel because I think the Suma ultra pied will be nuts.
Would be nuts.
I'm really excited to see what Suma in ultramel looks like in general. So that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
But that male, like I said, I'm really hoping he does well because that male will make a huge difference in what we do long term.
Yeah, I completely understand. I got a lot of dreamsicle stuff.
Yeah.
From Chris recently. I got a male pied het lav who's ready to breed. I got a pastel lavender male ready to breed. I got a pastel lavender female who is 1,000 grams now. And then I got a pastel het lav, but the two pastel visuals, there's a chance that they're het pied.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I'm like, can you imagine if like my first season I pair it, I want to make het. So of course that female's going to the pied het lav to make het.
Yep.
Can you imagine if it,
well, it could.
Season, I would poop my pants.
Yeah, I proved out all but one of our possets this year that I had that was ready to breed. We proved out the posset clown and made both the GHI and the Mojave clowns. We proved out the posset pied or posset lav and made the lavenders and the pieds. The only one that didn't prove was my black pearl posset hypo. He's just a black pearl. I put him to a Huffman head hypo and a visual hypo and a hypo pin. And if he was het,
yep,
het to visual, I should have got at least one. I should have got half, but I should have got at least one. And out of 6, we didn't get any. So I'm just shelving him as not het for hypo.
So I've never heard of Huffman, so I'm like Googling real quick what it is. I'm not ignoring him. Like, what's a Huffman?
No, this
is what happens. I talk to people and I'm like, what's that? Let me Google.
It's another.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's another darkening gene. The super is really cool because the alien heads get real busy, kind of oily, almost like they're not uniform in that.
Yeah,
it's allelic with the black pastel complex. So black pastel is what they refer to as a black pearl. The cinnamon version is a siren. The het red version is
I need the siren. Melusine exotics, like it's a mermaid. Let's go.
I can't remember what the het red version is called, but it's all allelic, it's all part of it. Which theoretically, if we agree with everybody that's on Facebook, it also means it's allelic with Enchi. So that'll be kind of interesting to see what that does.
Yeah.
But I think Chris has some of my Huffman stuff. I see him in the chat there. So that's going to be, he didn't prove, but, no big deal. Not an issue. I'm actually doing, I try to avoid the posset stuff if I can help it, making possets rather. But this year I'm making some just because I think it's going to be fun. There's some combos I want to make, and if they're posset hypo or whatever, that's fine. And then the other one I'm working on this season, she won't be ready, but next year she will. I have a spider lavender possible het pied female from Justin. And then I also have a 100% double het lightning male and a spider het lightning female that I'm growing up. And the spider's super slow. She won't freaking eat. But my goal, I have this side project goal just for funsies because people hate on spiders so much. I want to make every possible double recessive spider pied combo out there. I want one of every kind. And I want it to just have the head pattern. I want a hypo spider, spider hypo pied. I want a lightning spider. I want a spider dreamsicle. I want a spider clown pied. I want everyone, and I want just the head pattern on everyone. I want like 6 or 8 just solid white snake with the colored head. So like, I think it'd be super cool to have one of each.
Spider's such a beautiful gene. Like I love that pattern. We haven't had to get anything with spider in it yet. Like again, we're just new and we just started like in April acquiring snakes, right? So we haven't come across anything yet. But I mean, if the right one comes across, then the right one comes across. You just haven't had to get one yet.
As long because I have a couple of spider stuff that's for sale, and people ask me all the time about it. I'm like, look, if I didn't think it was viable, or I thought it was screwed up, whatever, it wouldn't even be available to sell. And if the spiders that I had were garbage, I wouldn't be breeding them. It's like, I think it really boils down to the responsibility of the breeder to understand this one needs to be a pet. This one can be bred. This one should probably be cold, whatever. And you need to be able to have that discussion with yourself and your customer. Say, look, this is a very real possibility. I picked up we were talking about HB reptiles earlier. I in a trade deal with him, I ended up with a spinner blast double head ultra glow female. Yeah. And she has a bit of wobble. She's a little goofy. I don't care. She's going to be just fine. She eats good. She's growing fine. She's just a little funky. If it were really severe, I know for a fact he wouldn't even have made it available.
Yeah, we have a banana mahogany spot nose HRA. So, and it wasn't eating for us. Like, it would sit there and try to hit the rat, and it kept missing and kept missing and kept missing. So we've been assist feeding the damn thing. And the other night, he finally took something on his own, no problem. So I'm like, he either outgrew that issue and he's going to be fine now because he's young, or I don't know, but he's eating on his own now, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I have actually a lot of people don't even know I have it. I have a super pastel possible het puzzle female that I got a while back. Nice. And she is hands down the worst feeder I have. She went close to a year without eating. It didn't matter what I put in front of her. It didn't matter if it was live, dead, heated, cold, mouse, ASF. I can't get ASFs, they're not legal. But anyway.
Yeah. And with lobster.
Yeah, it literally did not matter. And I looked at her about a month or so, probably 2 months ago now. I'm like, you're going to die in this tub. You look like shit. You don't shed worth a damn. You're emaciated. Yeah. I can see your spine, but I don't know what you want me to do. And you don't force feed or assist feed adult snakes. That's weird. Like,
yeah,
once you've trained them to eat, they're going to eat eventually, right? At least you hope so. And so I was like, you know what? There's one thing I have not tried in a long time. And so I went and got 3 large mice, which are tiny, at the pet store. And I dropped one in and she hit it immediately. So I gave her a second one. She hit that one and she ate all 3. And so I did that for a couple of weeks. She still looks like crap. But she ate all 3, right? Then I guess 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try something different. Because one of my holdback male for my Dinker project, he's been kind of a pain in the ass too. But he's been on, I have a small supply of frozen ASFs just as like a backup. And he's been on those for a while. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to thaw one of these anyway for him. Let me see if she'll take it. This thing's 4 times the size of these mice. It's dead, but it's not a rat, And so I put it in front of her and she freaking slammed it. So I gave her a second one. She hit it too. And so I'm like, okay, well, now we're making progress. Funny enough, that same day, since I used the ASFs, I put a small frozen rat in front of the other male and he ate it right away. So who knows? But they'll come around eventually. But I'm really that female, man, like I said, she went probably a year or more without eating, and she still looks like crap, but she's coming back. She's getting her color back. She's getting some size finally. And I'm excited to see her go because everybody tells me that she looks puzzle. And so, and I have 100% het puzzle male that's been ready to go for a long time. It's like that one. It's like she's, and I think it's one of those things, let's be honest, they're much like kids. They're going to eat when they're hungry. And if they're not hungry, they're not going to.
Yep.
They're not just going to starve to death. They know better.
It was my personal first snake, and this is when we decided to get into breeding. Like, I went straight to Billy, and I'm like, asphalt, give me an asphalt. And that was my first snake, and the damn thing wouldn't eat. And wouldn't eat, and wouldn't eat, and wouldn't eat. We couldn't figure out why. So we ended up starting producing our own rats. We did, because she was going downhill fast, and she was small. We hit that point, and we said, if we don't do something now, we're going to lose her.
Yep.
And we ended up doing, it wasn't even an assisted feed. It was a force. We had to massage the damn thing down. We did that once. She did an assist feed the next week. We got her on fuzzies that we produced. Then she went to pre-kill, and now she's frozen thawed, whatever we want to throw in the thing. But it can only be rats that we produce.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I don't know why. She's great. She's fantastic. You wouldn't think she didn't eat months for us as a young snake. Like, she's fantastic. I've had her on here a couple times. But yeah, she was just one of those snakes. And I looked at Dawn and I'm like, listen, we got her in April. It's now like beginning of July. She's small. If we don't do something now, we're going to lose her. And that's when we did what we did. And people will say, well, don't force feed them. But I'm like, if we didn't, she wouldn't be here. And she's doing great now. So
Yep. Yes. I mean, aside from failure to thrive hatchlings, I've only ever lost one, knock on wood. I got a blackhead lesser male from a well-known breeder when I was first starting out, and it didn't matter what I did. It was a hatchling. It did not matter what I did. That snake never ate with me. And I got back in contact with the breeder. I was like, look, here's what's going on. And he's like, try this. I was like, okay, I do that. Nothing. I was like, and we went back and forth for like a month. I was like, this is not going anywhere. He's like, all right, cool. Ship him back. Yeah. Look at my site. Is there anything else you want? And I ended up with a Calico Enchi Orange Dream female, and which I was really excited about because I have a Calico. Yeah. I have a, what is she? There's Calico Enchi Pin female I have as well, who actually bred last year for me. So I was like, this is kind of cool. I've got a Calico Enchi Pin and a Calico Enchi Orange Dream, and you can see kind of the difference between the two in that. And it was the only OD I had, and she did really well, and she ended up getting a viral infection that we couldn't fight. And so we lost her at probably 400 or 500 grams, something like that. That's the only snake I've ever lost in that regard.
Yeah.
I've lost hatchlings, obviously. I you get a couple that fail to thrive and, or don't make it out of the egg or whatever. And I had one that we culled due to impaction because the vet bill was going to be far more expensive than the value of the snake that I have to sell as a pet only, that we would never be able to breed because the prolapse is like, it's not even worth the effort.
And you don't even know if it's going to survive the being
exactly. So it's treated, like, it sucks, but it's a cost of doing business at some point. And that's something that not enough people are willing to talk about in this hobby. At any level, doesn't matter how big you are, at some point, unless you are legitimately keeping and breeding snakes purely for the hobby and the enjoyment and owning the animals, and you have no desire to sell them, and you're not trying to fund your collection or whatever. It's just, it's like you have 2 dogs, and if they have a litter of puppies, okay, fine, I'll give some to my friends, but no big deal or whatever. Unless you're like that, you have to be honest enough with yourself that at the end of the day, it is a business, whether or not you have a business license and an LLC or any of that crap. And there is a cost of doing business. And at some point, you have to do a cost analysis, say, this is a $200 animal at best if I can sell it. And the vet wants $400 to do a surgery that I don't even know is going to work. And if it does, the animal will never be capable of breeding. And it has to be a pet, and we're not sure if it'll even eat and survive and pass food like normal and everything after that. So at some point, you just got to cut your loss and say, look, I've got, some people have figured out, they say, it takes $65 to produce each animal or whatever their cost analysis is by the time they get from pairing to laid and hatched eggs. It's like, that snake cost me $65 to produce. I'm going to sell it for $200, or I'm going to spend $300 or $400 to fix it. I'll take my $65 loss and move on,
Well, and that's the thing, even if something happens and it was okay and you're selling it as a pet only, like, there could be something down the road that happens to that thing. It's quality of life for quantity at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I've already in my head, I'm prepared for this. Like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. As much as cool as this hobby is, I mean, I've only been in it since April, so I can't say too much. I'm already aware that there's stuff that happens that people don't talk about and don't warn you about, and poop happens.
Well, and it's weird, guys. One of those things, I've been very transparent on my channel with a lot of that stuff, and I have had, I think if you were to list off all of the weird or abnormal possibilities that you could come up with. I have had, in the 3 years I've been breeding, I've had all of them except a true parthenogenesis clutch or a two-headed snake.
Yeah.
I had everything else. I hit twins.
Yeah.
I've had the twisted umbilicus. I've had ones that have drowned that couldn't come out on time. I just this year produced the first one with a kink. Mm-hmm. I've produced some now with small eyes and bug eyes and no eyes for that matter. Yeah. And so I put them all out there. I've lost an entire clutch to an incubation error, we think, but we don't really know. And so, and that's it. I put it out there and I don't hide behind any of it because it's a reality. And if somebody comes to my channel and says, hey, this is how I can get started, relatively expensive. And as a new person, I can build it up in my garage or whatever. I'm like, you need to know that this is also possible. We're not all going to slay the odds and hit sumapides and dreamsicles and be selling them for $4,000 a piece and make millions of dollars. That's just not the reality.
No. And I think too, like if you go into it being like, I'm going to make all this money, no, I mean, the money's nice to put back into it and you have to look at it that way as well, but it's not.
Yeah.
You're not going to make $1 million off of it unless, you're like Billy, but no.
Well,
not in the beginning.
Yeah. The thing that the big players have, the thing that the big players have going for them is time. They've been doing this a long time. So you do it long enough, eventually the odds catch up to you and that kind of thing. There is an element of, in my opinion, paying to play in this hobby. It's something I've talked to about with a lot of breeders, with our snake chat series that I did with Garrett Hartle and my buddy Brian McCourt from Sailor Serpents. Mm-hmm. We talked about it there. And there is no doubt that if I had the capability to drop $4,000, let's say, on a heavy hitter key male, and I had $50,000 worth of key females that I've been raising up the last 3 years, mm-hmm. I can't guarantee, but I would assume that I could take that $54,000 investment and produce far more than $54,000 worth of offspring with it. There is no denying that. This is the reality. And I have the utmost respect for Miguel at Always Evolving.
Oh my God, he's amazing.
I love Miguel. He does a great job. But there is no denying that he put a butt ton of money on the table. And now he gets to reap the rewards. He gets to have $10,000 and $20,000 and $30,000 clutches because he made that initial investment. I don't have that capability, so I have to do it the hard way, so to speak. The
hard way, yeah.
And a lot of industries and that are not that way. That having extra money up front doesn't necessarily guarantee you a greater return in the end. This in particular, if you have the means up front, you absolutely can return far greater numbers at the end, just out of sheer value of what you can produce.
Yeah. See, we lucked out that I was able to pick up things very specifically. So like this year is a lot of creating hats, making the females that we need for like the next couple of years. But if we do get the clutches we get and we get certain amount of males to be able to resell and things like that, we should be able to come out even for what we've put in it so far. Like, you know what I mean? But to be able to put a little more back into it, get some more new morphs we need. I mean, we don't have a large collection. I think we have it's in the 20s, like lower 20s. Like it's not huge, but I mean, I managed to get a world first. I've got a freeway pairing this year right off the hop. So I'm really excited about that, but it took a lot of work to find the right pieces to be able to start with a bang, so to speak. And it's not even that fancy of a bang.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's like, it's like my sumapide. That was a mahogany het to mahogany het. 1 in 16 odds at best. There were 4 eggs. There were 5 eggs, but one went bad right away. had 4 eggs. I mean, the odds were completely stacked against it, but that's the only way I can afford to play this game. You know, I can't go buy a mahogany pied and put them together and have a 50-50 shot at it, you know?
Oh, yeah. Like John, because he's doing similar. Like he had to get a mahogany Leicester HRA had hypo female, and then we got the pied het lab male to be able to share the pied male to start that stuff.
Yeah, you know, and this, I happen to be very lucky that I have good people in my camp, you know, with Chris, and that this Dreamsicle male is a game changer because, you know, beforehand that was far well out of the realm of possibility to me. You know, it's like I was talking to Oblivion about the tri-stripe stuff. He's got a cinnamon tri-stripe male that I would love to pick up right now because that's a project I really want to work again in dual recessives and that kind of thing. But I just can't, you know, I can't pull the trigger because that's not my market. And I know guys that'll say, you know, Miguel's one of them. He'll see somebody put up a, you know, whatever, an orange dream yellow belly leopard clown pied male or whatever, it'd be $5,000, and he'll pull the trigger on it like that because he knows that A, he's got the money to do it, and B, that in 8 months he can put that male to these 6 females, and he can turn a $5,000 investment into 50 grand like that, you know. And once you get to that level, you know, it's a lot like investing in like a stock market, whatever. You put $1,000 in today, and it's going to be $1,010 at the end of the year or whatever. But you do that long enough, and that compounding interest starts to add up. You're going to turn that. You're going to go from 100,000 to 500,000 to 3 million to, you know, it's going to start to escalate rapidly. And that happens. You look at Miguel's collection is a perfect example of that. Over 3 years, he has gone from buying, you know, spending a lot of money to now he can go out and buy a couple of key animals and put to what he's got and turn it into big money clutches.
Yeah. Hey, does anyone know what the Scales family has been? I was talking to Amethyst the other day, actually. They're busy with a lot of stuff, and that's all I'm going to go into details of. But they're coming back soon. They just had a lot going on.
Yeah, don't we all at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky that I'm a stay-at-home mom, so this is like my career that I'm able to work and do something I love while taking care of the kids.
Somebody back here asked, KPO Pythons asked if my twins were male and female. I think they were both males, if I recall. They're both normals, of course.
Yeah, Kelly has this really cool theory about twins and male and female and see if it's possibly genetic.
So I heard this in Billy's podcast a few weeks back. Yep. Yeah, where the thought process is if you have a male and female twin that comes out of the same egg and you put them together, that they will produce more twins.
Yeah,
or something to that effect.
It might be interesting to try out. Like, I mean, you can't go wrong.
I love talking to my non-snake friends that, like, you see the gears in their brain turning when I tell them that, like, I'm going to take this Sumapide male when he's ready and put it back to his mom because my odds are dramatically better to make more Sumapides. They're like, wait, you're going to do what now? Like, that part doesn't add up to them.
I come from the lizard world. Like, initially we were breeding beardies before we got into ball pythons. So even that, like, because you have to watch lineage with beardies super crazy because if there's too much incest, like, it just sucks them right up. Excuse my language. So when I was learning and I'm like, oh, you can put the male back to the mom. Like, what?
I plan on it, believe me, because instead of 1 in 16 odds, then I've got 1 in 4, I guess, with the Suma, or 1 in 2. I don't know.
God only knows. Like, well, we've got a Mojave Asphalt too, an ivory pairing this year, and if I hit a freeway, I'll probably pop it back to the mom to get more stuff and hold interesting females. I need a male and female twin to test. Morph don't matter.
Well, if I make more twins, I'll let you know. I've only hit I guess I've hit 2 pair now.
Yeah.
I think something like that.
I'm interested. I'm waiting because you said Partho. You haven't hit one yet.
No, you know, the Partho thing is interesting to me because
I have a Partho baby.
The first time I learned about that was from Garrett. Reach Out Reptiles, and come to find out, for whatever reason, Partho seems to be far more common in retics than it is in ball pythons, at least from what I'm seeing. Although it's interesting to watch, especially online, the trends, I guess, what the trendy thing is right now. Like,
yeah,
I'm cautious to say this, but I don't have any disrespect towards other people and their collections. But if you look back at YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and that about 4 months or so, some of the big players, Billy, Will, Morose, that kind of thing, they started doing and explaining all of this cryptic stuff, right?
Yeah.
And how it's tied to clown. You get cryptics, kryptons, clowns, that kind of thing. And then magically, everybody and their brother online in their collection of 40 animals has cryptic in their collections that they've never known about. And that might be totally accurate, but it seems convenient, I guess is the best way to put it. And I've noticed the same thing about Partho lately. I've seen a lot of posts about Partho clutches, especially in recent weeks.
I have too, and I didn't know if it was like 2020, blame 2020, or if it was just because like I have one, because it was a breeder friend of mine, and the pairing was just a straight hypo female to a leopard something, and he was just going to make hets, right? Absolutely zero. He had 5 eggs. 1 egg went south. Happened. 4 eggs, and they were all straight up hypos, nothing else in them.
Yeah. My understanding is, and I guess there is a lot of science, there is a lot of biology to it, where it is a naturally occurring thing. My understanding is, I guess the offspring have to be either heterozygous copies of the mom or full homozygous copies of the mom, purely. So obviously in the case of a hypo, they'll all be hypo anyway, because there is no homozygous form beyond hypo, obviously. So
because I noticed, like Ron at BBM Reptiles, he's ivories. I seen somewhere else that someone had firefly freeways, and I'm like,
well, that's convenient.
It was all of them, and I'm like, that's because the mom was a firefly freeway, and the dad was something else, and they were trying to make some super asphalt. And I'm like, holy crud. I'm like, it seems to be all like ALS combos or supers or like visuals. Like, that's kind of neat.
Well, and that's my understanding. Cause like Garrett, the Partho clutch that I saw with him, all of the females came out. I'll probably gonna get this wrong, but they all came out lavender and lavender tigers.
Yeah.
Or no, lavender tigers and lavender super tigers, I think is what it was. Something like that. And because the mom was a lavender tiger female, or had anery or whatever it was. And so everything comes out just like the mom, or a 2x, super of the mom. But obviously if you're a visual recessive, there is nothing beyond that. And that's what he got. He got all lavenders, half of were tigers and half were supers. So
I was watching something, I think with Herp House Rocks with Warren Booth, who Warren Booth is like a super smart fellow.
Yeah.
His area of study is Janice. I can never say the name right. We'll just say Pres. And he was saying that we notice it more then, because sometimes if you have like a pastel enchi, I don't know, calico leopard or something, it's just going to take a couple of those genes. It's not going to mimic the whole thing. So sometimes it could have a Presa baby that's just like a pastel leopard.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, but you don't notice that because it's not the same thing as mom.
I was going to say, really the weird thing would be knowing if you just like crush the odds, or if it ended up being Partho. Like, what if I put, this dreamsicle to a pos double het female, and I make 6 dreamsicles out of it? Did I just get insanely lucky, or is that an all Partho?
Or is it even like a couple of them were Partho? Not
exactly. Yeah, who knows? It's really bizarre.
It's really cool. Oh my goodness! An hour and 49 minutes. All right, I'm gonna open up, see if anybody has questions, and then in a few minutes we'll split off. I'll just scroll back here. I agree with Jason on the cryptic stuff, but I do have an ultramel that might be cryptic krypton that even Billy thinks is. Got to try to prove it this year.
Seems awfully convenient, Marshall. No, I'm kidding. It very well could be. Who knows? The cryptic thing. I still don't quite understand. And, it's one of the things I tell everybody when I talk, they ask me about like, what genes do you want to work with? Are you doing that? My policy is if I don't get it, if I don't understand it, if I don't see how it works, if I can't identify it myself, whatever, I don't deal with it. I don't work with it. It's like I always say, I don't quite, because I haven't done enough research on it, I don't quite get bongo, for instance. So I don't have any. I don't quite understand red gene, ringer gene. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't have any. And cryptic is that way because I just have not done enough research to understand it and see it.
Yeah, I'm still learning, so there's a lot of things I can't spot yet.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay.
It's insane. This would have been so much easier to get into 30 years ago.
Like, that's why I'm trying to buy as many like supers and ALS combos. That way I'm like, okay, I can spot that.
Yeah.
We're good there.
Help, sure.
Yeah. That definitely helps. Drink. Oh God, you guys are bringing the Ultramel game. Have I missed it all night? We have a game here that because Zach with Nova Reptiles is upset. He's Master Ultramel. And he always asks the Ultramel question to people and talks about it a bit. We love him. We really do. So anytime the word Ultramel is mentioned, we take a drink.
I think if they haven't gotten Ultramel stuff from me yet, they are going to. I've talked to them quite a bit about it because I did some Ultramel this year as well. I can't remember if I sent them something or if they're planning to get something eventually. But
Zach?
Zach, yeah.
Yeah.
KPO, no, that was not this past season, but my first season that had the twin normals. They're long since gone.
Yeah, Ultramel is a gene I want to get into for sure.
I love it. This past year I did my cinnamon Ultramel to my pewter genetic stripe female for double head ultra stripe stuff. And I hit, that was part of that trade deal with HB. I hit 2 pastel super cinnamon double head females and they were both perfect. So we kept a bunch of the stuff back. This year I'm doing the same male to I'm doing I guess I'm not doing another double head with the Ultramel. I thought I was. But I am doing pinstripe clown to that same pewter G stripe. So that G stripe clown stuff in that too. So
I've got this project in my head for Ultramel. I want to do DG Ultramel Super Asphalt because I think that would look sick.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would be a nice little powerhouse.
Because I want to make, although it's already been done, I want to make the Ultra Freeway. But I don't have any asphalt stuff. And my problem is if I'm going to start making hets to work towards an Ultra Freeway, then I want to start with a super asphalt. And I just can't, I don't have the money for a male super asphalt right now.
Yeah. I have a Mojave asphalt that's breeding size. And he is like, if I don't have a plan for that female, he's going to it this year. Like, let's get the asphalt going. Come on.
Well, that would be the way to do it is get something came from a super and then just keep it away from yellow belly till you're ready.
Yeah, because I do have the ivory and I'm going to make some Mojave freeways with her just to hold back. But anything else, like I got a pastel Mystic, he's probably going to. Which Mystic Potion and asphalt, I'm not going to complain about.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm working this year. I put my pastel and she's scaleless head male to my pinstripe Ultramel female. I want to see what the scaleless ultra looks like too. I'm really curious to see that color without any scales on it.
Yeah, I really like Ultramel. I want to get into it hopefully next year. I ask this question everybody because I am starting out, and we kind of did everything backwards. Starting out.
We all do.
We were like instead of like getting ideas, because I knew I want to do freeways, but other projects, we were like, oh, availability list. Oh, what's that? Morph Google. That's how we did it. But someone starting out, like, is there any suggestions of genes, like, or a morph, like, you would be good to start out with?
The simple answer, the answer everybody goes to is you breed what you like, obviously.
But what happens if you like too much, like me?
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Again, if you're gonna be honest enough about it and say that there is a goal of making money with it, whether it be to make it a full-time job or just enough to sustain your collection without any out-of-pocket expenses. Either way, you got to make money, right? And so, if your favorite combos are superflies and fireflies and that, you're not going to make enough money to sustain a collection of pastels. That's obviously doesn't make any sense. So that is kind of a flippant answer that we all give, is breed what you like. I did a video on this last year, actually, if I had the opportunity to start over, how I would do it. And a lot of it has to do with availability of funds. I don't ever recommend anybody go into debt to buy snakes to start a breeding program, putting them on credit cards or whatever. I did the same thing. We're all guilty of it. This year has been an all snake money in, snake money out cash business. And I've been running it that way from here on out. And I actually like it. I can see something available. I look at my account, I'm like, yeah, we can afford it. Let's do it. And I'll pull the trigger on it. You actually have better buying power that way too, by the way. But I did a video on this a while back. If I started over, I think the smart money, obviously recessives are the way to go. That's where the money's at. There's so much more still to be done with recessives. So if I were going to start over, I would probably my two favorites are pied. I love pieds in general. Pieds and clowns obviously are huge. They're easy to sell. There's so many different combos, so many things you can do with it. My opinion might be a little different now because I like my Ultramel stuff. Like you said, I like the puzzle stuff is interesting, although I'm not into it yet, that kind of thing. But what I would probably do is pick, especially if you got recessives that work well together, like Pied and Clown, for instance. I would start building an army of multiple codom, 2, 3, 4 gene codom, 100% het pieds females, and 100% het clown females. And let's say you put 5 het pied combo females in your racks and 5 het clown females in your rack, and you start raising them. First, you get to learn how the snakes all work and how to feed them and deal with the temperaments and the changes of environment, and yada, 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 and get them to size so they're ready to go. And when you get ready to do that, then you do, in this case, is what I would do is I would go out and buy a killer, not super pastel, but just a super awesome visual pied male, a super awesome visual clown male, and if you could swing the money to do it, a clown pied male. And then split your collection, put your pied male to maybe 3 of the really cool pied females het pied females, and your clown male to maybe 3 of your het clown females, and then that clown pied male to the middle 5 or whatever it is. And now, because now you're making, which the idea is, the goal is to make the stuff that you would want to buy that you either can't afford or don't have access to currently.
That's what I'm doing.
This Suma pied male for me was an animal that I will not likely be able to afford realistically in another number of seasons. So I went the long way to do it, and I made one, and now I can put it in there, And so, I've been doing the dreamsicles the hard way. The difference is I would recommend doing it with 100% hets and then put a visual to all of them, because 100% hets are easier to sell. They're more marketable, and your odds are a lot better. So that's how I would probably do it. I would structure, I think, a 5 and 5, 2 recessives, and then kind of almost like an NCAA bracket, like a playoff bracket. You just have the kind of ladder down to a handful of things. I think you could make some really cool stuff, and that'd be a great way to start. And you'd have what, 12, 13 animals, and you'd be able to produce maybe, 8 or 10 clutches your first season, 6 clutches your first season, and make, cool stuff and good money.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of our freeway, my freeway stuff, because John's not really into it, is I just wanted to have genes into asphalt and yellow belly and see what happens. Freeways, they're cool.
Yeah, like Chris Sexton said, I know because he's got some of my stuff too. He's working on Ultra Clowns. Same thing. You could do exactly the same idea because the Ultra Clown has been made. That now, had you asked me that same scenario 3 years ago, it'd be different because my understanding is the Ultra Clown hadn't been made until about 8 months or so back when I saw the first one.
Yeah.
But same idea. You could do, a handful of het Ultramel females, a handful of het clown females, an Ultramel clown, and maybe if you want to take a swing at it, maybe a double het Ultra Clown male and put it to 2 or 3 in the middle or something.
Yeah, no, I knew I wanted to do dreamsicles at some point, and
so did
luckily for Chris Ward, like I didn't think I could afford lavender and stuff this early, or a Pied Het Lav, and he was just like, let's make a deal.
Yeah, not my first logo, but my interim logo until what I have now was obviously a dreamsicle. And realistically, my logo now, it's an orange snake. It's derived from a dreamsicle. That was what Justin's emoji dreamsicle is what got me fired up. And my second snake I ever owned was a pastel double het ultra or dreamsicle male. Of course, I didn't need it at the time, but from Justin. And so I'm the same thing. That was my
I have to make some more double het clown hypos. I fell into a double het hypo clown by accident.
Oh, I'm disappointed. So, HB Reptiles has 4 double het ultra clowns growing up, and he didn't tell me. And now Chris just hatched 5 of them.
Share.
Yeah.
Rude.
We did an ultra glow and an ultra stripe pairing, and he didn't tell me he had ultra clown pairings. That's not fair.
So nice. So nice. I wish I could have so.
See, that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem I'm having, because I want to make double hets in that too, but I've only got one visual clown female. So it's like, do I make more clowns to pay the bills?
Mm-hmm.
And make, I'm still swinging for that GHI Mojave clown, or do I shelve the clowns and make double heads, which are going to be really basic? It's going to be normal and cinnamon double head ultra clowns for what I've got to work with. So that's my problem. It's like, I don't have enough. Now is what I'm really looking at investing in, is more adult visual recessive females.
Yeah,
they cost you, they're $1,200, $1,300 a piece. But if I could buy 2 or 3 more pieds and 2 or 3 more clowns and a couple more hypos and 2 more ultramels, I would be set.
Yeah, we fell into like I said, a double het hypo clown. It's actually a past Dave double het hypo clown. So I've seen an ad on like the Canadian version of Craigslist, $100 for this thing. So I messaged the girl and I'm like, who's the breeder? Where'd you get it? How old is it? Happened to be a breeder I knew. Messaged the breeder, confirmed the pairing, confirmed it was 100% double het hypo clown, went and picked it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're good to go.
Yeah, that's killer.
Yeah, we're really excited. Oh, Corey, you're popping in, and we're about to leave here shortly. No, I want to get into Ultramel. I think it's really cool. It's definitely.
I think the Ultra Freeway is going to be fun.
Yeah.
The Ultra Puzzle, like Chris just mentioned, I mentioned Josh Lundberg earlier. He's got an Ultra Puzzle male that's just killer. I held back to one of the genes I think everybody always asks me underrated. One of the genes that I think has been kind of pushed by the wayside is champagne. I really like champagne. And this year I produced a really, really stellar yellow belly mimosa female.
Yeah.
So I put her on the shelf because after seeing what Billy did with Ducky, the lesser champagne freeway, I want to make champagne hypo freeways. And so that girl is going to be a perfect start to that project.
I'm not a huge fan of champagne. I'm a pattern girl. But what did it for me was when I seen those ones Justin Kivelka did.
Yes.
That had the pattern all in them. And I'm like,
the champagne clown and that.
For one, that was like champagne NT clown or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, those are insane. Like, I actually like them then.
Well, and the same thing I could do, like if I hit let's say I hit a GHI Mojave clown male, I can hold back, then I can put that to that same female and make combo double het hypo clowns that have champagne in them and, start going that direction. So there's there's so much to do.
Oh yeah. It's almost hard to kind of like pick the lane now that I'm like learning everything. I'm like, I love freeways and that's where I'm going to, but I'm like, I like clowns now. Pied, it depends on the pied. So I have diagnosed OCD. So like, it has to be visually pleasing. Like dreamsicles, like it matches, and lightning pieds and it matches, but like a regular pied kind of like hurts my brain. I don't know how to explain it. Like it actually hurts my brain. I was mentioning that one night, and Billy's like, I get it.
I'm kind of that way with sunset. I just don't get it. I don't. Sunset does nothing for me.
I didn't think that until I seen the cinnamon NC ones that Brian produced. Those were insane. Like that nice orange and stuff.
I mean, like a lot of things, they look great as hatchlings. I don't know. I have not seen, with the exception, I always say with the exception of the Hypo Sunset that Brock Wagner made, or Brad Boa, either whoever it was, the Hypo Sunset was amazing. I thought that looked fantastic. The Sunset Clown did nothing for me. I did not care at all. The Banana Sunset female that JP up in your way has, that one's kind of boring just because there's so much stuff in it that has no pattern. You know, banana pinstripe lesser sunset female, or whatever the hell it is, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm again, if I don't, well, in the case of sunset, I can't afford it. I do have a posset to posset sunset pairing this year. I only have one, so I do have a shot at it. But the same thing. I don't really know anything about it.
Sunset as a freeway.
That might be cool. Yeah. And I just don't get, like, again, I don't get sunset, so I just don't work with it. I think sunset's going the wrong way. I think people are going the wrong direction with it so far. Everybody's seeing the rust colors and the oranges in that, and they're going dark. And I think that might be wrong.
Pattern.
That or bright. You know, what is well, there could be, I probably should look it up. Like, what's a lesser or butter sunset look like? You know, go with a light colored hue. What's a champagne sunset look like?
I thought of, like, what does like a hypo leopard sunset look like?
Yeah, and I've always thought that I think, well, HB is going to beat me to it. I think the key to sunset is going to be in albinism. In my opinion, I purely work with lavender because I like it better. I think the lavender sunset is going to be insane. I think that's going to be the key to that red snake, the red white snake.
Yeah, that's what actually John was mentioning. That's one of his favorite words is sunset. Like, what will we do? He was thinking about getting a male and popping it to our pastel lavender.
Yep.
And seeing what would come out. So he also wants to see, because I mean, we've seen the albino Suma, but we haven't seen the lavender albino yet that I know of.
I think Corey Woods has one.
He did that. He did the regular albino, but I haven't seen the
okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it would be generally the same thing, but instead of white, it would have the lavender. But
you would think, yeah, maybe. The problem with the Suma is it takes away any pattern, so you get one color. That's the same issue I'm having with this double head ultra stripe pairing, since I've got cinnamon in my Ultramels.
Yep.
It's cinnamon in genetic stripe blows away all the pattern, makes it solid colored. So I'm like, great. So what if I make a cinnamon ultra stripe, am I even going to know? Because it's all going to be one freaking color. It's all going to be one orange or whatever, you know?
Yeah. We're actually thinking it's just an experiment. We're going to try it. The Suma Freeway is the dorsal stripe of the Freeway possibly going to come up, like bring that reds out and bring a little pattern back to it.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? I don't know. We're going to try it. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Exactly. What's there to lose?
What's there to lose? It's just going to be fun.
Sunset Xanthic is going to be interesting to see, because
wouldn't that just ruin the point of sunset?
I think so. The problem with Xanthic being that it removes all the xanthiform from the snake. That's typically all of the yellows, but it does remove. It's because of what we call a xanthic in ball pythons also kind of lends itself to anathoristic and other reptiles, so it removes red and yellow. I think that's going to be an issue, because that's what sunset is all reds.
Yep.
So I wonder, like, if you you're going to get if you did a pure sunset axanthic with no other genes in it, you would get the pattern of a sunset, which is nice, but no color. I think
somebody's got to be working on it.
I'm sure they are.
I can't wait to see it, and it's almost nice being like new in this, and you guys are so ahead of us, and I'm like, okay, so they went that way with something I like. I'm not going to. Let me go this way.
And Marshall's going to beat me to it as well. It wants sunset and ultramel. I agree with that as well.
Oh, that would be nice.
Because of the colors. I think that's gonna work really well together.
I even like to see just straight up mahogany and sunset and see what happens there. Bring out those reds a little bit.
But again, I think everybody's going dark. I think if I had sunset, I'd start going light and see if it changed it, see if it's any different.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of thinking like the stuff I have. So when I say like we have the mahogany lesser HRA head hypo, which that would be kind of nice to pair to a sunset. Like she's insane. That is an insane looking animal, and I'm not a huge fan of mahogany. Hopefully my ultras take visual clown het ultra to double het yellow belly. I want a super chocolate clown ultra. That's interesting.
There's another gene I don't have because I don't understand it. It's chocolate.
Yeah, although I don't have that yet.
Yeah, although I do have a cinnamon Wookiee male on the way, and there's a lot of people that believe Wookiee and chocolate are the same thing, if not allelic. So who knows?
I'm not super convinced by Wookiee yet, but again, I'm still learning. So I mean, I need to see more stuff done with it.
This trade deal that I did is for the cinnamon Wookiee male is it breaks my cardinal rule that if I don't understand it, I don't get into it. But it's an opportunity that I just didn't want to pass up. And after seeing what Justin has done with his Wookiee clown combos and that, again, Wookiee's one of those that goes really, really well with the light color stuff. The Wookiee Pastavis, the Wookiee Lessers, the Wookiee Leopard. You know, so I want to go that way, but with more stuff, or put the Wookiee into my Ultramel project, or whatever. So
see what Hypo does to it. I love Hypo. Hypo's one of my favorites.
Very, very highly underrated. I like Hypo stuff a lot.
That actually was going to be a question, like, do you find anybody sleeps on certain genes, like anything people don't take advantage of?
Yeah, well, part of it is because a lot of people try to chase what the top, 5 or 10 people are doing. So like Justin made, well, everybody is doing clowns. That's a different discussion, but Justin made Red Stripe the hottest thing in the market. So everybody wanted Red Stripe. A lot of people don't know what Red Stripe does.
Yep, that's why I don't have it. I'm looking at it, I'm like, what is that?
Then Justin, Justin and Will and Billy and that, they started doing a ton of Desert Ghost and Enhancer stuff. So everybody wants Desert Ghost and Enhancer stuff. So it's kind of like what the flavor of the month is a lot of times.
Yeah.
And because of that, some of the foundation genes in this hobby, hypo, pinstripe, champagne, that kind of stuff gets left by the wayside. And there's so much to be done. I love my pinstripe stuff, and pinstripe in clowns, in pieds, in that kind of stuff just looks killer. So while people are sleeping on it, I'm over here making pin combo double heads, this, that, and the other.
Yeah. So, I like it. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I like it. I find another one people sleep on a little bit, Mystic. Like, that does some neat stuff.
I do like that. A lot of people try to avoid it because it's so hard to discern from Mojave. But the weird thing is, out of a potion, you get Mystic or Mojave, and half the time you can't tell the difference. Yeah. This is part of, because I'm not a biologist. That's my brain doesn't work like that. But I have a hard time wrapping my mind around how nature allows something like that to happen. How do you have a gene like Mystic and Mojave that look so similar, that have a quote unquote super form, so that you get one or the other when you breed it out, but a super Mystic and a super Mojave are dramatically different? Like, how does that work?
Think of it like this way, because I love biology. I'm a biology nerd. You have blue eyes, right? But there's different shades of blue eyes.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. I mean, we've got a pastel Mystic and a Mystic Crystal. I love the gene. Yeah,
and the other one that I just have never been able to answer, and I don't know if, I don't want to get into the whole argument over heterozygous versus homozygous versus codom and super, and the naming scheme is all horrendous as it is. As far as biology is concerned, we have these all labeled incorrectly, but that's a different discussion. Exactly. The one that I've never quite been able to wrap my head around, if you look at ball python morphs that we know of, all of them, the single gene or the heterozygous of of a recessive,
mm-hmm.
they all, for the most part, look relatively quote unquote normal. They all more or less blend in with some variety of nature. Doesn't really matter which one you pick. Obviously, patterns are different. Some are brighter than others. A lesser is obviously brighter than a mahogany, but relatively speaking, they're all browns and tans and blacks and that kind of thing.
And that's why I have a hard time IDing stuff.
Until you make, in some cases, some supers or like a blue-eyed leucistic, but a blue-eyed leucistic makes sense to me in the wild because the single gene, the form of it is relatively normal. Or you look at recessives, pieds, or albinos, that kind of thing. Those would generally not survive in wild due to the lack of camouflage in that, but the heterozygous forms all look relatively normal, right? The one that I have never been able to wrap my mind around is how in the hell does a banana exist in genes in the wild? Because that is
I've never thought of that.
That is what we understand is a single gene. That's a base morph. So it's not het for anything, allegedly, in that, because there is a super form of it. How does that exist naturally occurring in the wild, in ball pythons?
I never thought of that.
That one has stumped me since the beginning. All the other ones make sense.
What do you want, Chad? Go eat a thing. Chad with Richard's receptive, oh man, leaner. I'm like, why are you oh man leanering me? No, I never thought of that. That's kind of interesting. I'm not a huge
nerd. Yeah, as a biology nerd, now you got your brain moving. Now you're thinking about it.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a fan of banana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's again back to the OCD and the freckles. Like they bother. Like it actually hurts my head.
Oh, weird.
Meanwhile, Buddy over here, my significant other, is obsessed with banana.
I like banana. And the funny thing is, because I'm just a pain in the ass, I've identified that banana and coral glow are the same. There's no argument about that. It's just a who got to name it first kind of thing. But
candy and toffee.
Everything in my collection is banana. And if I ever buy something, like if I buy something from Justin and he calls it it's a coral glow red striped spot nose het clown, it will be a banana red striped spot nose het clown in my collection. I only have bananas.
Yeah, I was trying to explain that to John one day, and I'm like, it's the same thing. It's just, Q came in, Buddy here got that one, Buddy there got the other one. It's the same thing. He's like, but there's differences. Like,
I don't think there is. And the other reason, as a biology, think about this. I have, again, and I'm just dumb this way, but I have a hard time understanding how two identical genes that do the same thing can be different in the wild.
Yep.
Just like, you look at
asphalt and yellow belly. They look the same. You put them together, and
but they do different things with themselves. That's the difference.
Yep.
Super bananas and super coral glows are identical. Super lessers and super butters are identical. Oddly enough, super cinnamons, super black pastels, red axanthics, so on and so forth, are not, which doesn't make any sense to me.
I didn't recognize Jason not on Tom Stone.
Oh, from yesterday.
I missed that.
After Billy's podcast, I shoehorned my way into Tom and Chris's aftercast, and so
why would he want to do that?
So Tom FaceTimed me on his cell phone, and then held it up to the camera like this, and we did a 3-way chat with him and Chris.
My question is, why did you answer?
Oh, I provoked it. Tom and I were warring in the comments last night. It was fun.
I love Tom deep down. Where the heck is he? He knew I was on tonight.
So modern exotic says, I like het red axanthics. It's just a really bad name to put het in there when it isn't. See,
technically, Corey Woods is right.
The funny thing is, that is actually correct.
Correct.
Everything else is wrong. Corey Woods is absolutely correct. I think
same as technically yellow belly should be het ivory.
Exactly right. No, he is 100% correct as far as the biology of it is concerned. But that's neither here nor there at this point. That's like, I was watching Barchek's video the other day, and he got some new rare, I don't know what it is, rat snake or corn snake or something. That doesn't matter.
I cannot keep up with that man, like, honestly.
And the gene that he got is a pied and super pied version. But again, I don't know.
Isn't that the same thing? That's like saying high white and low white are the same thing, even though they're the same gene.
No, but
it's just polymorphism.
And whatever the species is, it's different. They treat pied as a codon, not a. It would be like saying that there's puzzle and super puzzle, because het puzzles they're a visual het, so to speak. They've got markers and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I just think the reptile community was trying to keep like het for the recessive genes versus something that's codon. But I mean, technically, it's right. It's just,
and I don't know why. I don't know why the distinction had to be made. It's either a visual heterozygous or it's not.
Yep.
That's it. That's the answer.
We don't go walk around saying, "Oh, I'm brown-eyed het for blue."
Exactly right. Yeah, like my banana is a visual heterozygous of a super banana because we call it the wrong thing. And my het pieds are a non-visual heterozygous of pied. So I agree with you. It's Sean Bradley. Sean Bradley can have that fight all he wants. I disagree. I have exactly the same genes in two animals. One's lesser and one's better, and I defy you to tell me the difference.
I can't say much of it lesser and better because I have lesser. I've never seen a butter in person, so
I will agree. There are definitely better of some than the other. I have some butter combo stuff that hands down looks way better than my lesser combo stuff, for sure.
But is that just that line?
Yes.
Or polymorphism? Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same as like Ozzy's ODs are amazing because of what he perfected, but it doesn't mean it's a different type of OD. It's still.
So Rebecca's question there: do you think it's possible to hit a super disco inferno? No. Simple answer is no. Because Disco Inferno is an allelic combination. You can't have more than 2 copies of a gene in any allelic super.
Yeah.
So that would be, in this case, would be a super disco, fire?
Yeah.
I guess is what makes an inferno. That's not possible.
Yeah.
That would be like saying I'm going to have a spark freeway. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Or a super asphalt freeway.
Asphalt freeway.
You can't do that.
Yeah. Or a gravel freeway.
Exactly. Yeah, you can only get two copies in any ALS combo.
Yeah, I need more of that super straight complex that's not gravel though. Not gravel.
I like the pavement. That's a cool combo.
Yeah, I don't mind that, but like I don't like highways at all.
Well, it's funny because that's like we were talking about with the albino. Like I made the decision a long time ago that you got to pick one or the other. I think it's smart, especially with something like a highway or a freeway, because it's impossible to know the difference between asphalt, gravel, yellow belly, spark, Spectre, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it would just convolute everything if you had both, if you worked both projects. So I went freeway with mine. So my plan is to go freeway. I don't have any asphalt stuff yet, but that's my plan. I'm going lavender albino, not regular. I do want to get some candy specifically, but I'm going to keep it. Well, I don't have albino to mix it with, but I'm going to keep it pure because I like the look of the candy strain of albinism. And that's fine as long as you just work with that. But the whole like Candino, Toffino, all that, it's just a nightmare. I wouldn't want to deal with any of that crap.
No, and then you're breeding it and it's not even 100% het. Like,
yeah, and you don't know. You like if you you breed a Candino to a
pastel.
Clown or to a pastel, and you get pastels and normals. They're either het candy or het albino, but you won't know which one it is, and I hate that.
No. I mean, it's not too bad. Like, I don't mind post hets as long as the rest of the genes I like, and it's a bonus at that point. Because I mean, we have that banana mahogany spot nose HRA, and it's post het hypo, 50% het hypo, which is we wanted it for the rest of the genes. So it proves out cool. God, I'm still learning genetic stuff. Yeah, genetics are fun. I love genetics.
Marshall, I think we're talking about two different things. Disco Inferno is an allelic combo.
Yep.
I think I know what you're talking about. That's different. I know, but we're talking about two different deals here. There might be something called an Inferno that is a genetic combination of Hidden Gene Woma, Pastel, and Yellow Belly. But Disco Inferno is an allelic combination between Disco and Fire.
If you want to get into candy stuff, you should check out Sal's Yoma's Pythons, the stuff he's going to be producing this year with his candy. Holy poop!
I think I'm keeping an eye on my buddy Bill. Bill Stiegel down in Dallas. He's got some pure candy stuff he works with too.
Yeah, he's got this thing candy pied. Like I'm just sitting over there.
I love the candy pied stuff. Yeah.
He was on the other day, and he's showing me all this stuff, and I'm just sitting there like salivating. Tastes like butter.
I could be totally wrong too. I don't have any Disco stuff, so I don't work. I only have Fire in the Fire ALS combo. So
Marshall, gotcha. Inferno, the combo he was talking about.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Oops. Definitely. I went to my own website. I don't care about that.
I don't even have a website yet. We're still slacking on that. I don't even have a logo, nothing on that.
If we do trait combos, I'm curious now because
I'm over here like Googling as well.
Inferno. Yeah, so Inferno is listed as Hidden Gene Woma Granite, which is there's a whole argument to be made about that. Pastel and Yellow Belly, and if you come back up here and you look up Disco Inferno, that's Disco and Fire. Okay, yeah. So, all right, so we had it right. It's just the way it's being presented. Yeah,
Inferno alone is that name of that combo. Yeah, and then Disco Fire is Disco Inferno. Freaking who's naming all this stuff?
Just like a vanilla cream, like, and then you get vanilla creams and amarettis because somebody had to decide that they wanted their own line of Fire, even though they're all the same.
I'm just like, why are they like? I'm looking and someone's like the Triton, and I'm like, okay, can we just call it what it is? Yeah,
like, I'm really good at putting my size 13 foot in my mouth when it comes to the genetic namings because I think there's a lot of crap about being so provincial of having a gene or line named after yourself. After you. So like, why do we need to have Fire, Flame, Ember, whatever the hell? They're all Fire. Just call them, pick one. I don't care what you call it. Just pick one and call it that.
Pick one and call it that.
Yeah, like DG and Enhancer. I'm sorry, in my opinion, it's the same thing. Just pick a name and stick with it, because the problem is now we've got 800 freaking different genes, and a third of them are probably all duplicates anyway.
Yeah.
So it just makes it complicated for new people.
Yeah. Oh, and it absolutely is because you're sitting there like, so like as I'm learning, I prefer the World of Ball Python calculator because it'll actually like tell you what a Triton is versus people going Wolf Mark and it's a Triton, and I'm like, okay, that's great. What's in it?
Yeah, like I was looking at an Ultramel to buy the other day, and it was a pewter Ultramel denim, and I'm like, what the hell is denim? And I still don't know.
Some of these, I'm just like, and I'm still learning, and it's so confusing because I mean, what was it the other day? ICHGW, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, oh, Hidden Gene Woma. Like, I'm still learning everything, so I don't really know everything.
Half the time you see HGW and then you see HGWG because as far as Kevin, as far as Kevin's concerned,
Green Ghost or something like that.
Yeah, as far as Kevin's concerned, Granite is a tag-along gene that's always associated with Hidden Gene Woma or something. Like, how the hell does that work? And you have Hidden Gene Woma, and then you have Woma, which is totally different. And you have Woma that looks like a spider but with no wobble. Like it's obnoxious.
I'm confused already, and that was like 30 seconds. Yeah. Like, and I don't claim to know anything because I still can't identify half of the stuff of what I've got. Thanks for labels.
Ron saw the Ultramel I was talking about, the denim. It's a cool looking animal. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know anything about denim. I don't. But
I just found it like the Mario gene the other day, and I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, we've 2.5 hours. I'm going to call it.
I'm good with that. I gotta keep working on my room.
Yeah, it's like 12:30 at night here, and I've got to go to bed at this point.
HB Reptile says I stay away from all womans. Oh, it says womas. I read it as womans.
I was about to say, you did not say womans on my channel, thank you.
That's funny. I have Woma in my collection. I like Woma, actually. You get that look of spider, but you don't have to worry about all the problems.
Interesting.
Yeah. I have a Woma scaleless head female I'm raising up. I really like.
Yeah. Are you going to try to breed her?
Yeah, absolutely. They're rock solid.
Because I know there's that.
And
this is just me being stupid, but I've heard and uneducated, but I've heard there's some like controversy with the scaleless female.
Well, I produced a scaleless this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot.
Again, I'm learning, so
there's a lot behind that. I think a lot of I have it on good faith from some contacts of mine that we should be able to put some of that discussion to rest this season. And as far as I'm concerned, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to go the way I want it to go, and not my pairing specifically, but this outcome is either going to go the way I want it to go, and it's going to shut up a lot of people.
Yep.
Or it's going to go horribly wrong and prove them all right.
And I mean, how are we going to know until it's tried?
Exactly.
Because everybody says, like, I've seen people say, I've got to scale a female, but I'm not going to breed her till I see somebody put a picture of one on eggs. But how are we going to find that out unless somebody doesn't do it?
I do understand that sentiment because, you have this relatively rare, somewhat hard to produce animal that, especially in the case. So one of the issues that we haven't seen one yet is because they do, and I can now vouch for this personally with experience, they do take longer to get to size. And the reason being is they shed constantly. Like my scaleless female, she is an eating machine. She'll eat anything I put in front of her, but she eats. 3 days later, she's in shed without fail. And as we all know, most of them will not eat while they're in shed. So if you take every other week off of food, it's going to take you longer to get to size.
Well, and I mean, that's with any species. I mean, if you look at Selkies, they shed constantly.
Exactly.
Constantly. And you have to treat them special, like with special staff to help them shed. And like, that's why I won't breed leatherback to leatherback in beardies, because I don't want to deal with Selkies.
Well, and the weird thing is I have not experienced yet. Now, granted, my sample size is 1, but I have not experienced yet all of the complications that a lot of people talk about, that the extra care and that needed on the scaleless. I literally put my scaleless in the tubs exactly the same way as every other hatchling I've had. She shed great. I might open the tub and notice that she's starting to shed or whatever, and they always start shedding from the belly first, which is really bizarre because that's not how a normal ball python sheds, but that's just how it works.
That makes sense to me in my head though, because don't they still have belly scales?
No,
they don't. Okay, I thought they had belly scales.
Scaleless colubrids do, but ball python.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
But I'll see that she's starting to shed, and I'll just mist the tub down, spray her just a little bit. You don't want to get them wet because I mean we all prune. We know what that does. Same thing happens to their skin. So you don't want to get them wet, but you mist them down just a little bit, and you come back at the end of the day, and she'll be perfectly clean. And she works. It works great. I reached out to Tim Bailey. He's the one that produced this, or he's part of the Scaleless Pied project. I'll put it that way because I don't know the whole story about where that first Scaleless Pied came from. And I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, man, what do you think? I've watched all of Daniel Allison's videos on this. What are your thoughts?" He says, "I set up my scaleless like every other hatchling, and I treat them exactly the same." So I did, and it's working.
That's awesome. I only have experience with Silkies, so I mean, and they're
and I do know those are different.
Oh yeah, you can't have anything pointy or sharp in the thing because they can literally cut their tail in half. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen it happen. And it's horrible. We said that if something were to happen, because with leatherbacks, you have dominant and you have recessive leatherbacks. So if something were to happen and we ended up with a silky, honestly, if he even made it out of the egg, it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not dealing with that. I know beardy breeders who literally, when they're trying to get out of the egg, they tear their stomachs open.
Oh, weird.
From the umbilical cord, the yolk sac.
Huh.
Yeah.
Marshall, you're more correct than you think you are.
Only Jason has had a 5-hour toss thorough.
Marshall knows exactly what I'm talking about because he's got the same source I do, so he knows what.
Yeah.
Knows what
that's interesting because I mean, like, I'm still learning about scaleless. I'm only like, I don't have one yet, but
yeah, it's
new.
I'm obviously hopeful, but I'm confident, I guess, that it's going to work out fine. I think it's going to take us a lot longer to get the females to size, which also should make them, well, I guess it would make the males more valuable in that case. Adult females would be a lot more valuable because you've already done the time with them.
And that's the thing, like, if someone proves it's okay, I will totally invest in the scaleless.
Absolutely. And I know, and I've got customers that have literally been ready to pull the trigger on my scaleless, but they say they don't want to. I'll out him because he's not afraid. Chris is one of them. Chris told me he would have bought my scaleless ready to go as soon as she was ready to move, but he doesn't want to put that kind of money into that kind of project until we know for sure, especially with a female. The male scalers you can move because they breed just fine.
Yeah.
But we haven't had the time yet to get these adults to size so we can put them on eggs. And there's all this concern about them not being able to stretch enough to get out the eggs, and it's going to tear and they're going to rip. And I'm like, I don't get that. If you actually dissect a snake, the scales are not connected to each other. That's how they're able to stretch. So if that skin underneath can stretch with the scales attached to the top, why could it stretch without them?
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see, and I hope it does. I
do too.
Prove that.
If not, then the scaleless females will just be a really cool
pet.
High dollar pet. They'll probably settle down in that $1,000-$1,500 range for combos, something like that, and they'll go to specific people. And the males you can use to make all scaleless heads, because I like what scaleless head does in combos by itself.
Yeah. I'd like to see what I like scaleless, but before I jump the gun, I want to see what happens. So if I know if I'm going the female route or I'm going the male.
Exactly.
Because I'm not going to sit there and get a female and have it sitting in my rack, taking up space and not helping, to further my hobby and my passion when, okay, I can go get a male and still have that scaleless and love and adore it, but then it's going to further along my hobby.
Yeah, and like Marshall said, I talked to Earl about it, and he's like, realistically, if they do prove to be viable, we're not going to be making, none of us that have scaleless and scaleless head in our collections should be trying to make 50 or 100 or 200 of them a year. No. It's not that kind of animal. It's not like making Batmans or, Dreamsicles or whatever. It's going to be a niche, high dollar, fun project for us to screw with. We're going to make, 1 or 2 clutches a year, a couple of us here and there. And that's it. It's just going to be a fun thing. It's not going to be the big money maker. But I do really enjoy scaleless head as the single gene. And this is something I argued with people. They're like, no, I'm not buying the scaleless head stuff. The scaleless are all garbage. I don't like scaleless. I'm like, okay, then don't use it that way. Oh, by the way, last time I checked, you have spider and champagne and that in your collection. Those are single gene only pairings. Why can't you use scaleless head exactly the same way with a deliberate attempt to not make a super? We all do it. We all have lethal super combos it's lethal super makers in our collections. Just treat it like a lethal super, although it's not. But if you don't want to deal with the scaleless, treat it like a lethal super and only use it once.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful enhancing. It screws up the pattern. It makes things brighter. Like, it's cool. I like it.
That's why I'm
putting in my Ultramel stuff. Although I do want to make the ultra scaleless, even if it's just for myself.
Yeah.
But same thing. Just like I want to have that I want to see how it brightens up Ultramel or whatever. So
yeah, I want to get Scaleless Head, but sometimes like I find right now it's really hard where I am to try to kind of find things. Like
and for you guys, that's half the battle is just getting access to stuff.
What annoys me is the fact that I live 5 minutes away from the border.
Yeah, and you can't just drive over and grab something and bring it back.
I wish I could, because there's a post office there that you can have packages sent to, and they'll hold it for $25 and then be like, "Here, it's here." Realistically, I should be able to be, okay, cool. Hey, Jason, can you send me something to the post office? Yeah. Oh, it's there. Let me drive across. Oh, hey, dude, at the border, here's my permit. Yay. Yeah. But no.
That would be nice. I mean, that's part of the reason it took so long to get this dreamsicle from Chris, is because it's, you got to wait until there's, you and 5 of your buddies have 30 snakes that you need to export to the States all at once, and you just all share the cost in that, because it's just insane.
But what sucks too is a lot of my friends in this industry are in the States that I would want to buy stuff and trust to buy stuff from, but they're all in the States. So it's like, speaking of Chris Ward, he wanted me to tell you hello. He was going to actually pop in and surprise you. I was going to bring up your import today and then just randomly pop him in. I'm famous for that. I like to surprise people, but he had to go do something and couldn't make it. So he wanted me to tell you he was going to surprise you.
He's got more important things to do than talk to me.
Well, he was going to surprise you, but something came up and he couldn't. But he wanted me to tell you. God love him. I love him. He comes across as a dick, but he's such a good friend too.
Yeah, I mean the willingness to help out even a small nobodies in that, like, it's been great adding him as a friend and putting him in my inner circle for sure. So
yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness, we went way over what I said we were going to go over. I said an hour ago we're done, and I'm getting really tired. So I'm not taking any more questions in here. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have you back for a round table or something.
Absolutely.
It'll be a good time. And it was nice to bond with you. This is the first time really we've talked.
Yeah.
So, yes. All right. Thank you guys, everybody. If you guys want to follow Jason, all his links are in the description below. Please give me a like. I just want to shout out tomorrow night guest is Corey Martin at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah, we're going full hog this week, guys.
You guys, one of my snakes, too.
Starting next week, I'm going on a schedule. It's going to be Wednesday night are going to be one-on-ones. Saturday nights are roundtables. And next week's roundtable is going to be epic. I've got Will Morose, and I've got June from Ballistic Python, and Chris Ward.
There you go.
We're having a Canadian roundtable. I'm like, I do not deserve to be on that roundtable, but it's my channel, so I'm going to be there.
June's got some impressive stuff, that's for sure.
I've been drooling over his stuff, and I'm like, he's like, oh, you should buy something. And I'm like, I can't afford it yet. Maybe next year. Yeah, all right, guys. See you guys in the next one. Bye.